I'd like to call the 2026 Town of Rockingham School District meeting to order. Good afternoon. As many of you know, I'm Paul Bohosky, and I will be your moderator for this meeting. Please stand if you are able and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please sit. As a moderator, I ask your indulgence and patience as we work our way through today's meeting. I have no doubt that you will kindly and gently call any errors to my attention. You should note that I will not recognize or call upon anybody standing behind the rail or at the head of the aisle, nor will we count your vote, so please come down and join us. Now would be a good time to shut off your cell phone and pager, please. The meeting will be conducted according to Robert's Rules of Order, except as modified by state statute. You can't change state law, but you can choose to modify Robert's rules with a 2/3 majority vote. General Roberts had pages of rules for decorum during the debate. I hope that it will not be necessary to remind you to conduct yourself in a civil and polite manner. As Mike Hardy, our long-serving school moderator, always said, we arrived as neighbors and friends, and we should leave as. Please stand if possible. State your name when recognized. You will have to forgive me if I do not call on everyone by name, but I will do my best. Down front, both sides, there are microphones, so please come down once you are recognized to speak. Please address all comments and questions to me as the moderator, and I will either answer them or redirect them to somebody who can respond. Only registered voters may speak unless by leave of the assembly, which requires a 2/3 vote. Unless there is an objection, there is a leave of the assembly for school officials. School may not be registered voter to address the assembly for the purpose of explanation during this meeting. Those of you who are eligible to vote was given the voter card. Well, everybody got a voter card, I know. I just mine's getting up here somewhere. And on a division, please hold your card up so everyone is comfortable that only registered voters are voting. On a paper ballot, the clerk will mark your card as you pass you the line so that we can be assured that only folks voting are registered voters. Those articles requiring an Australian ballot vote will take place on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. It will be taken up for discussion only. No other action other than discussion can be taken up on them at this meeting. I will strive to make any rulings that I'm called upon as impartially and correctly as I can. Any ruling of the moderator can be challenged immediately after the ruling. I will explain my ruling, and if you're not satisfied, all it takes is a request to challenge the ruling and put it to a vote of the assembly. Debate on the motion to appeal the ruling of the chair is generally in order. It is my job to assist you in accomplishing the business of this meeting. Please raise your hand and ask questions. If you think something happening is wrong or you don't understand it, again, raise your hand and we will try to explain it to you. If you want to do something and don't know how to do it, don't know the procedure, again, we can help you with that. You must be recognized by the moderator to address the assembly. I will try to recognize all those who wish to speak in an orderly fashion, getting around to all those who wish to speak but haven't had the opportunity before returning to people for a second thought. You'll be limited to 5 minutes total. I hope you can be brief and not feel you need to use up all of your time or refile the ground that you or someone else has already gone over. A motion must be made, seconded, and restated by the moderator before debate on the motion begins. In most instances, only 2 amendments will be allowed on the floor at any one time. That is, 1 amendment on the main motion and 1 amendment on the amendment where appropriate. It requires a second and 2/3 vote to cut off debate and call the question. You have to be recognized to make the motion. You can't just shout out because you're tired of the debate. The motion to close debate is non-debatable. By state statute, once voters have acted on a question and taken up the next item of business, they cannot reconsider the action at the same meeting. Voting will be by voice vote unless the chair is in doubt, in which case there will be a division. Also, many voters may call for a division as long as we have not started the next item of business. Any voter may also move for a vote by paper ballot before we move on to the next order of business, in which case all the voters will be able to vote. And if there are 6 other members that will stand to go to a paper ballot. Action under other business cannot require any expenditure of funds, nor can it be binding upon the school district. Any action under other business is advisory only. At this time, I would like to ask Caitlin, Chairperson of Rockingham Town School District Board of Directors, to introduce her fellow board members and other officials from the Rockingham School District. Caitlin.
I'm Desmond. I'm chair of the Rockingham School Board. To my right is Chris Kibbe, director on the Rockingham School Board. To my left, you have Christine Damasi, member of the Rockingham School Board. Andy Hotz, superintendent for WNESU. Ed Connor, director of finance at the WNESU. And Jerisa Conti, our last member. And Ben over there, sorry, Rick Holloway, our member of the Rockingham School Board.
Thank you. I would also like to highlight that this afternoon's meeting has a Zoom link, but also highlight that voting is not permitted through Zoom. The warning for this afternoon's has an introductory paragraph which reads as follows. The legal voters of the Rockingham School District are hereby notified and warned to vote from the floor on the following articles on Saturday, February 28, 2026 at 2 p.m. at the Bellows Falls Opera House, Rockingham, Vermont. Article 1, to hear the reports of the Rockingham Town School District officer and to take action thereupon.
I move that the voters of the Rockingham School District hear Article 1, to hear the report of the Rockingham Town School District officers and to take action thereon.
Is there a second? Motion is made and seconded. And the motion is to hear the reports of the Rockingham School District officers and take action thereupon. Is there any discussion? Yes.
Eddie,
Cut down to the mic, Amy, please. Thank you.
I wasn't able to find the school reports, and just so I know, are they posted online somewhere?
Andy, if you could do what?
Yeah, they are on the district website, and I believe that they were dropped off at Town Hall and other places around town. They're on the hall on Dole. They're out on the bench behind Kier Bergstrom.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Jay.
Kick one up. Amen. I have two general questions. The first is, could the board or Paul comment on student achievement? Specifically, what percentage of our kids during this past year had tested proficient on their statewide tests, and how is the trend going in our area?
So Andrea Depuch.
Jigs, I was trying to pull that up. I'm actually not able to pull it up right now. I was anticipating that question, so I'm sorry. I don't have the number right in front of me right now. I can get it for you. We are seeing a slight increase in mathematics right now. Reading is still lagging at this time, but I don't have the actual numbers. I do apologize for that.
My recollection is that the proficiency levels were pretty poor, like in the 30, the 40% level. Is that still the level of proficiencies that we're seeing?
We are pretty much in those same levels, yes.
All right. So the second question is more of a general, broad overview type thing. There's been a lot of discussion about the cost of education and our state's inability to kind of address it. But obviously, looking at our district and seeing our numbers continue to drop down, although they've kind of leveled off this year. But it would seem to me that given the student population in Rockingham, the high school, Westminster, Atkins, and Grafton, that we could comfortably handle our grammar school kids, the K through 4, and I guess in Westminster, Athens, Grafton, it's K through 6. In the current Westminster Central School. And I'm curious as to if those discussions are taking place at the board levels. Clearly keeping additional buildings open is very expensive, and it also lends to smaller class sizes. So I'm anxious to hear if there's any initiative in our area in that regard. Thank you.
Would somebody like to?
Yeah, I can speak to the fact that we have had discussions as a board about what the conversation at the state level means for us. As you know, in the past year, there have been a lot of discussions in the legislature about different proposals and recommended maps for consolidation with different degrees of whether they're mandatory or voluntary mergers. Part of Act 73, which was the landmark education legislation that was passed in the last session, was to have a redistricting task force consider feedback from multiple sources and make recommendations to the legislature to consider in this session. The recommendations coming out of that task force after a lot of public feedback, which I think was pretty much universally oppositional to the forced merger plan, was to have a slower voluntary consolidation process that relied on the cooperative services agency model, which is just starting to take hold in Vermont. Our SU is a part of the BOCES in southeastern Vermont that is being formed to be able to provide special education and other services to districts where we're able to better share services and costs. So within that, we have been having discussions regularly in our board meetings about what we're hearing on the state level and what that means, what the implications would be. So that's where the conversation.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on Article 1?
I just wanted to add just one piece to what Kevin said also. The other thing that Act 73 did was provide guideline that will be going into effect next school year about minimum class sizes. So that will be something that we now have as a reference point to begin paying attention to as we look at enrollment in the future and consider the enrollment levels that we do have across schools. It at least provides a basis for that conversation that the state is operating from. Us moving forward as we evaluate that year over year.
Any other questions or comments? So the motion on the floor is to hear the reports of the Rockingham Town School District officers and to take action upon. Anything else? If not, all those in favor would say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and we'll move on to Article 2. Article 2, shall the voters of the Rockingham Town School District authorize the school board to close a restricted tax relief reserve fund for 2028 and 2029, funded from the 2022 and 2023 surpluses, and transfer the total amount of that fund of $650,000 to a new unrestricted cash relief reserve fund to offset expenditures in future years. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, first, I'll see, well, yes.
I move that the voters of the Rockingham Town School District authorize the school board to close the restricted tax relief reserve fund for funds for 2028 and 2029, funded from the 2022 and 2023 surpluses, and the transfer of the total amount from that fund, $650,000, to a new unrestricted tax relief reserve fund to offset expenditures in future years.
Is there a second? Motion been made, seconded. The motion is, shall the voters of the Rockingham Town School District authorize the school board to close the restricted tax relief fund, reserve fund for 2028 and 2029, funded from 2022 and 2023 surpluses, and the transfer of the total amount from that fund, $650,000, to a new unrestricted tax relief fund to offset expenditures in future years. Chris.
All right, let me unwind this for you. If you look at the next page, and you put the page 58, you will see on the revenues that about 3/4 of the way down, there's a line called refund of prior year expenditures, which is what we're talking about here. And we have for quite a few years in a row applied past surpluses to our current year's budgets as we all went along. And that amount that's been applied has been $500,000, $500,000. And as you can see from the motion, these surpluses go back quite a long way. It's 2022, 2023. So we were moving surpluses forward 5 or 6 years to offset taxes. However, in the next 2 years, we are going to start to reach a point where the amount that's set aside to offset taxes is going to start to be reduced a bit. And the total for those next 2 years would be $650,000, so it's less than $500,000. What we want to do is not create a tax cliff where all of a sudden everything disappears that we're carrying forward, and all of a sudden we've got an extra $500,000 that we have to cover from taxes. And the purpose of this motion is to give the board some flexibility next year when we're budgeting to either place some, all, or none of this $650,000 to to offset taxes in that budget, which is next year's. We haven't done it yet. Trying to give ourselves some flexibility. So if you think about it, it actually would have been a good thing to do this year, because we have a budget with a very modest increase, under 3%, and if we had had this in place, we could have put less than $500,000 to offset taxes, and then started to step it down so that there wouldn't be a cliff. But that isn't the case. But it's an example of if we had the flexibility, it would have been handy to have this year. We backed out for next year. The other thing that you hear a million times, which is true, is we don't really know what's going on with federal funding for education. And there are a number of positions and revenue streams that come in from the feds that are a little bit up in the air. So it'd be good to have a little bit of flexibility about how to place this money in our budget when we're budgeting for next year.
Thank you.
I don't know if I made it clear or...
Any questions or comments? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Jody, and I'm on 225 Rockingham Street in Bellows Halls. I appreciate the board's intention to try to stabilize the tax rate. I have a question. Does this board, to take care of the buildings and everything, do you have a long-term capital needs plan? Okay, and do you have a capital stabilization plan? Do we have that here where money goes in every year so that we don't have that tax fluctuation? Okay, thanks for answering my question.
Any other questions or comments? Anything else? Yes.
Priscilla, member of Rockingham. The intention of the voters when they voted that money was to exactly do what Mr. Kibbe has referred to, which was to not create a cliff. By putting the money in each year and counting that voted and expended, we know exactly where it goes. If you vote yes to this vote, then you give the board the right to never use that money. And with the legislature, as Mr. Kibbe has just referred to, up in the air about what they're doing about our schools, we could totally just lose that money. The board previously put it in for those 2 years. I think there's probably about 350,000 for 1 year and 50 for the other. Also, with all the surplus this year, we're looking at an increase in the taxes for the budget for next year. There's bound to be a surplus next year. We need to keep it the way it is, because that way the taxpayers in the past are being respected. They've already voted this, they've already agreed on this, and we shouldn't be taking money that they voted on and are trusting us to use the way they voted it and changing it at this time. By keeping it the way it is, we're showing our respect to them. We're also providing that money each of those years to avoid that cliff that Mr. Kibbe was talking about. So I would urge you to vote no against this budget, because there's, in the way it's written, in future years, who knows if we're ever going to see that money if we vote. It may just sit there, and if the legislature changes the education system, we may totally just lose it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? The one thing I will say, it's pretty dark out there, so if you raise your hand, make sure, and I don't call upon you, make sure that I do call upon you, okay, please? All right, so Article 2, the motion has been made and seconded that the voters of the Rockingham Town School District authorize the school board to close the restricted tax relief reserve fund for 2028-2029, funded from the 2022 2023 surpluses and transfer, and with the transfer of the total amount of that fund, $650,000, to a new unrestricted tax relief reserve fund to offset expenditures in future years. Everyone have the question in mind? All those in favor of the motion would say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. And the ayes to the chair, the ayes have it. We will go to a show of cards then. So, all those in favor of this motion will stand, and as soon as we have JP's. So, all those in favor, please stand and hold your heart out, please. Please set. All those opposed to the motion, again, please stand and hold your voter card up. You can sit. So the results of the vote are 71 voting yes, 26 voting no, and the motion carries. We'll move on to Article 3. Shall the voters of the Rockingham School District apply the sum of $710,000 from the fiscal year 2025 fund balance to create a reserve fund to be used for capital improvements at the Rockingham schools and authorize the board to expend said funds. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move the voters of the Rockingham Town School District apply Shall the voters of the Rockingham Town School District apply the sum of $710,000 fiscal year 2025 fund balance to create a reserve fund to be used for capital improvements at the Rockingham schools and authorize the board to expend said funds?
Is there a second? Motion been made, seconded, that the voters of the Rockingham Town School District apply the sum of $710,000 from the fiscal year 2025 fund balance to create a reserve fund to be used for capital improvement at the Rockingham schools and authorize the board to expend those funds. Is there any discussion? Yes, Mr. Reese.
Paul Reese from Bellows Falls. I'm in favor of setting the $700,000 aside, but I'm kind of curious. All the schools have been renovated. Do you have something coming up that maybe we should know? Do we need a new roof or something? I mean, I think it's wise to definitely set money aside, but let me know what's the problem coming up on summer.
Anybody?
Yeah, Paul, so none of our buildings need new roofs. I can tell you that. And, you know, we did a lot of renovations, but there are, I mean, Central Elementary School does need some work in the older part of the building. You know, some new flooring needs to go in. At Saxon's River, we're looking at putting some pavement down in the parking lot area. It's a dirt lot. And we are looking at doing some energy efficiency in all of the buildings, and have a company come in and possibly, you know, making some recommendations around lighting and some other areas. So that's what we're looking at right now.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, it's Dave.
David Lambert, Rockingham. I'd be interested in finding out how much is currently in the capital reserve fund and what the total will be after you add the $700,000 to it. And I need more information on what all this money is going to be used for, what Superintendent Haas just sent doesn't seem to add up to that amount of money. So I'd like to know the current balance, and the balance would be, was the $700,000 having.
Ed?
Current balance in the capital reserve fund is $2,638,861.40. And I add $710,000 to that. It would be $3,348,860.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Reese?
After hearing the total number that's in surplus, I would agree with Mr. Lambert. I actually believe there's more than enough money. We don't need to spend another $700,000.
Any other questions or comments? Yes.
We're after the fight came about as you did by football.
Okay. She wants a vote by card. Yeah. When we get to that point. Is there any other discussion? Yes, Mr. McCall.
First of all, I'm very pleased that we have a $710,000 surplus, but I would have expected it to go into the fund for future taxes, offsetting future taxes. It appears that we now have $650,000 in that fund, and if we've got 2.5 in the capital reserve, why not put the 700 in the capital reserve, the funding for future taxes, reducing future taxes? I think clearly the taxpayers have put this money up, and I think the sooner they get it back in the form of lower taxes, the better off we are. So I'm just curious as to the rationale, why not go into that fund versus the capital reserve fund? Chris?
I'll give that one a go. Those are good questions, Jim, and actually we did have a debate about exactly how due to the surplus funds. And that, certainly one of the options we discussed was doing as Mr. McCall suggested, putting it on unreserved, that give us a bit more flexibility. However, the fact is that I think you're all forgetting this is 2026, and there are no small repairs anymore, and everything is expensive. And I know it sounds like a lot of money, but what sounds like not a real big project ends up costing tens of thousands of dollars now, just because of the cost of labor and materials. So that is one piece. And the second piece is that, and actually back to a point that Mrs. Lambert made, is that there was discussion around if our school districts are reconfigured, what happens to reserve funds? Societies is something the legislature is talking about too. And we also felt that reserve funds that were set aside for school capital improvement and repairs are much safer from the legislature, because that is indeed what the legislature would want us to do, is to repair our schools with them, than having it in an unreserved fund. So we have chosen to have a smaller amount in an unreserved fund and then put this into the capital fund. But I would say that it was quite a lengthy video about exactly how to deal with this.
Thank you. Yes, Laura.
Laurel Reed, Bellas Falls. I'm delighted to hear that some of these funds are going to go for energy efficiency. Every single dollar we spend on that will help us reduce our costs in the future. So go for it. Spend every dime you have to. If you want to get rid of that money, use it all on energy efficiency. And I'm a co-owner. I know that repairs are constant with any building. So I think you need this money, use it wisely.
Yes.
Good afternoon. Delilah Hall, Fellows Falls. Along the lines of Laurel's question, the superintendent did mention energy efficiency, and I'm just wondering, as you look towards those improvements, do you know, will the school be eligible for rebates associated with that type of work? Typically, that kind of work offers those types of incentives. So will some of these funds be recouped through rebates?
Andy?
And Paul, so we are waiting on an RFP at the time. So we just, I believe it's out here at the beginning of March, and that is actually the purpose of that. And so we went out for companies to come back and to do all of that work to look at whether it's lighting and windows and heating plants, and then what rebates would we be eligible for doing all of that stuff for future savings.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Priscilla.
This fund has grown, it's all numbers, sorry about it. This fund has grown. I was on board.
You gotta speak into the microphone if you would, please.
It's grown and grown and grown, this fund, since I've been on the board. And I read in the report 2 million, and they just told me almost another million. This would be huge. I would like to make an amendment motion. I would move that we put the 710,000 in from the fiscal year 2025 fund balance into the tax relief reserve fund to offset future taxes, because our taxes are what's hurting our people. our taxes are what is hurting a lot of members of the people in the towns that are not able to pay them and keep up with them. And you're telling me you have gone up modestly, but you went up $20,000 in your budget. You also had $70,000 surplus. So if I have the 70 and 20,000, I'm almost at $1 million more than what you had to expend this year that you're expending on the schools. So by offsetting it back to the taxes of all these people here and our neighbors, we have a chance to survive. So that's my motion.
Is there a second to that amendment?
I second it.
Okay, so there is an amendment now on the floor, and the motion would read, shall the voters of the Rockingham Town School District could apply to $710,000 from fiscal year 2025 fund balance and place it into the unrestricted tax relief reserve fund.
Oh, I didn't say unrestricted, I said tax relief fund, so it can be used in the next 3 years.
Well, the upper motion is for the unrestricted tax relief fund.
Okay, so can you say to be used in the next 3 years?
That way you don't have any tears out. Legislation not taking it away from us.
We need to have her speaking in the microphone, please.
All right, so what she requested is that we change her amendment and add the $710,000 to the tax relief reserve fund to be used in the next 3 years. Is that the form of your amendment?
Yes, because that avoids the problem of the legislature closing the schools or changing rules and taking away from us.
And we had a second on the first amendment, and you'll re-second that, okay? So does everyone have this amendment in mind? And we'll vote on the amendment first. Andy?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to make one thing clear around Act 73 so that voters have clarity. There is nothing in Act 73 that says that legislators are going to close schools. What Act 73 says is that if consolidation happens and a new board is formed, then that new board would consider and take a look at what they would do to consider consolidating down new schools. So there's nothing that says that schools are going to close in 3 years. So I want to be very clear about that. What it does say is that if we don't meet minimum class size average for 3 years in a row, then the Secretary of Education has the ability to consider anywhere from technical assistance to recommendation to the state board to close the school. So that's where the closing of a school could be considered by the State Board of Education. So the legislature has no ability to close schools. So it just want to clear up some statements.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Oh, go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that when you're talking about these various funds, whether it's a general fund or a tax relief fund or capital reserve fund, they are just that. They're funds. They're separate. So your general fund is your operating fund. That's where you pay most of your bills. That's where you pay your teachers' growth. These other funds, the tax relief fund and the capital reserve funds, are, by design, they are restricted funds. You can't spend money out of those funds unless they're used with the specific purpose of A, cash relief, or B, capital expense. So by putting them there, you've already established that they can't be used for anything else. Now, when it comes to the tax relief fund, what happens in the tax relief fund, this is only like just a little over a year here, but you guys in the past have taken every cash, every reserve fund, every surplus you've ever had, and you put them into the tax relief fund, but you also put in a caveat that they were to use for a specific year. And the problem with that, or in my mind, is that it kind of limits what you can do in terms of taking a look at year to year. You don't know what your budget's gonna look like in 2028.
You don't know whether you're gonna need money to offset taxes.
You could, you might not. It depends. So by leaving it unrestricted in that sense, it's restricted and then it has to be used for potential relief. Was additionally restricted by your caveat by year, you allow yourself to use more or less of whatever's in that fund in any given year. So again, just to make sure you got to understand that these funds are that these monies are in these funds, they're already restricted. There's nothing that the board can do unless they use the specific purpose that they gave it upon.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, Wendy or me, Bellows Falls. Ms. Lerner's amendment to me is, pretty significant. It's $700,000 if I remember correctly. And I'm having a hard time deciding, and I would love some more information. If anybody has an idea about possible ramifications of either vote, I would really love to hear it. Thank you.
Caitlin?
Yeah, I can speak to why we initially thought about putting this towards the capital reserves and just add one point of information. My focus up here covered a lot of it, but we have talked to Andy with our director of maintenance about a long-term 5-year maintenance and capital improvement plan. I know that I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I know when we looked at it and we discussed it in our meeting, it was close to the total of the capital reserve fund. So when we're looking at these projects, we do have a plan to use the vast majority of the capital reserve fund, even though it does seem like a lot of money. I think the other piece to consider, and this is why we're bringing all of these motions to voters, and I appreciate your question and everyone being able to think it out together. As we've talked about with the offsets from the tax relief fund, it is helpful to have some of that money, especially in an environment of state and federal uncertainty when it comes to the funding. It allows us to be responsive to that if we should lose federal funding in some ways that has been forecasted we might. But I think our thinking was we also want to make sure that we're taking care of what we know are very expensive problems now, but where they become still more expensive if they are neglected. And so there is a plan to use these funds. I just wanted to make that clear as well, to make sure that we're addressing things in order of urgency and in order of importance with the funds that we have.
Thank you. Yes.
Just another comment to respond to your question, and I think actually to the first question that you had asked earlier. The other purpose of the capital reserves funds is so that we have that as insurance if there is a really large unexpected expense that comes up, that therefore that year for that budget doesn't have to unexpectedly hit the taxpayers all at once. And so there are both plans already to spend down a significant portion of that. But just like any of us, we also have to make sure that we're keeping a responsible saving balance to be able to respond to emergencies, issues, and items that might come up in a given moment, and to try to provide a long-term buffer for all of us as taxpayers on what that expense would look like. And echoing to what Ed said with regard to the capital reserves and specifying those for specific years, or the tax relief fund for specific years. Again, we're proposing that those stay in a restricted tax relief fund account. We just aren't tying them to specific years because we do want to be able to be responsive and to consider what the impact on a taxpayer would be. If we have significant tax relief funds budgeted for the next 3 years, and then there is a cliff that will at some point come to you all, we can't predict and don't know for certain what that ongoing surplus will be. So to allow that to be an unrestricted by year tax relief fund allowed us to try to stabilize what the tax relief and tax burden looks like for all of us in a given year coming up based on the information that we have for that year, instead of predicting ahead and possibly getting it wrong and having a place where 1 year you have a lot of relief and the next year we're having to make up for the fact that we've done that in previous years but don't have the balance to carry forward.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Fort Router, Rockingham. My question is, over the last 3 years, what was the enrollment number then, and what is the enrollment number now? for all the houses.
I think Andy's looking that up right now.
You're asking for all of Rockingham?
Right, 3 years ago versus today.
So in 2023, there were 466 kids and 435.
So it's down about 30 students, right? So it's continuing down, so this whole reduction seems very possible. I mean, look at statewide, we are down over the last decade, 20% statewide, 20%. You know, I think it's a reasonable expectation that there could be consolidation down here, and rightly so, because they're just not the students here, and it's continuing to go down. It's not going up. The placement value per woman is 0.1. We're at 1.6 and probably lower in Vermont. That's a national number, so it just continues to go down. So if you want to keep spending money like there's no tomorrow, better import some kids to fill these schools.
Thank you. Anything else? So the amendment on the floor is, which has been seconded, is to take $710,000 and add it to the tax relief reserve fund to be used in the next 3 years. That is the amendment. Does everyone have the amendment in mind? If so, all those in favor will say aye.
Excuse me.
Yes.
What is the implication?
I'm sorry, I'm unclear what the implications are for a yea or nay vote on this amendment. If we vote this amendment up, then the original article is moot.
What will end up happening, if you vote for this amendment, then the language in the original motion will change, and it will go from, instead of going into the capital improvement fund, it will be going into the tax relief reserve fund. And that's what this, if you vote yes on this amendment, that's what you're voting for, is to put it into tax relief rather than into capital improvement.
So an aye vote on the amendment means end of the game, the article is rewritten. And with a nay vote, then would go back to the original.
To the original.
Thank you.
Anything else?
What's the standing comment at the amendment?
Sure. So the amendment is to take the $710,000 and add it to a tax relief reserve fund to be used in the next 3 years. All those in favor of that will please stand and hold your card. Three. Although, please set, all those against this amendment would please stand and hold their card. Please sit. So. So the results of the vote is 74 voters voted no, 26 voters voted yes. The amendment is defeated. We're back to the original article, Article 3. Shall the voters of the Rockingham Town School District apply the sum of $710,000 from the fiscal year 2025 fund balance to create a reserve fund to be used for capital improvement at the Rockingham schools and authorize the board to expend said funds. Any discussion? Yes.
I needed to know why we shake up all the rest of this.
No, we need to have the question. So all those in favor of that motion, wait, Mr. Lambert.
I just want clarification. See, if this motion is defeated, I believe the amount of the surplus, the 700,000, would go to reduce taxes in FY27. Am I correct?
It appears you are.
So just to be clear, if this motion is defeated, without putting 700,000 in capital funds, it will be applied against your taxes with this upcoming budget that we're considering on Tuesday.
Any other questions or comments? Yes.
Sorry, just one moment in response to that. That may not be correct. Hold on.
All right, call it. You guys work that out. Yes, ma'am. Go.
I'm Kathleen Martin from Rockingham. I would suggest that it's not such a bad idea to have a fairly capital reserve fund in hand. We spent $10 million on the middle school not so long ago, and we had $3 million in hand at that time, or even $7 million. I also suggest that we had some issues at the high school that required some serious expenditure of funds. In response to a problem with the air handling equipment that was completely unexpected. So rather than have these expenses, and my guess is that we're still going to have a school, right? Consolidation or no consolidation, we're still going to have to repair, maintain, improve a school building of some kind. And $3 million is nothing nowadays. I'm sorry, I'm not happy of having it. I'm glad I don't have to bring it out of my own pocket, but I'm saying if we put it in reserve, it earns interest when we don't spend it, and it's available when we need it. I think that's a really good idea.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, and so just to clarify and address Mr. Lambert's point, yes, if the motion is defeated, the $710,000 that is proposed to be in the capital reserve fund would be applied as a tax relief fund for that fiscal year, and which would be in addition to the $500,000 that is already being applied for tax relief. So that would mean that for that fiscal year, we would be applying $1,210,000 as our tax relief for the town within one fiscal year. So as a taxpayer, that will mean that the following year, you will not see the same level of tax relief. That will be a significant shift and change in your taxes from year over year and volatility in that amount. And as stated again, these capital reserves are there to additionally allow us to access and protect you all from seeing some of those balances. And to the point just made, yes, if there were to be school consolidation, we would assume that there would need to be significant capital projects to make space for those students in those schools. Even with enrollment going down, it would still be drastic shifts. There are things like cafeterias, gyms, playgrounds, parking, open spaces that would all need to be shifted in addition to changing furniture, exits, and lots of other things in buildings. So in any circumstance that we're looking at, whether we are maintaining these buildings or consolidating them, we are anticipating significant capital projects needed over the coming years in addition to the ongoing building maintenance.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Reese.
Now I'm gonna go back and tell you, take the 700,000, add it to Ziegler amount. And the reason I say that, I've been worked maintenance, construction my whole life. Now I would take the problem back to individual building maintenance people who are in charge. So we don't see buildings totally deteriorate to zero. The reason, when you have chairs at the high school lasted like 40 years of the school. When you have a middle school that got renovated and you had brand new chairs, they didn't last 40 years. I think a year ago, special article, we put all the chairs once again. So I'm saying, if you pave a parking lot, you start seeing it crack. You get a company in there for $50,000 and you crack fill the parking lot until it doesn't deteriorate and cost you $1 million to fix. So I would hold every building management guy a little more accountable to start watching how the building's deteriorated so we don't get caught off guard.
Thank you. Anything else? If not, the motion on the floor. Sorry.
Hi, Lucia Sikowski, Rockingham. I think one of the things as we're getting into the nitty-gritty of all of this, we're losing the bigger perspective. And I think the bigger perspective here is great communities, which Bellows Falls is, have strong, vibrant school systems. And even though the population of the schools are going down, that historically fluctuates with the generations. So I think what we have to keep in mind is while we all would like to have $100 or $1,000 less taxes, we need to have a strong school system to underpin our community. And for these wonderful people who volunteer their time to help us educate our children, to give them the funds that they have ready at hand to pay the driveway, to fix a roof that is leaking. They need ready funds like that. As we all know, things are ridiculously expensive now. So if you want a strong community, you have to have strong schools. And I think we have to keep that in mind.
Thank you. Anything else? Gary.
Yeah, Gary Fox, Bellows Falls. And I agree with Mr. Reese about repairing things when they become a problem. And if you look up and see plaster coming from the roof here, in 2018, there was a proposal to fix the roof, and we didn't have the $500,000 to do it. And so here we are later paying the increased cost and having the cost of plaster destroyed all over the building that has to be replaced. So yes to what Mr. Reese said, but also yes to having the capital reserve to make the repairs as they're identified.
Thank you. Anything else? Rick.
I'd like to agree with Mr. Reese on this too. One of my goals as a board member here is to make sure that we do all the preventive maintenance and take care of our facilities. I've heard mentioned a few times that we've renovated all of our schools. So the middle school was 10 plus years ago. Saxon's River is close to 20 years ago. I don't remember how long ago Central was, but it takes a lot to maintain these buildings and keep them up. And if there is ever a threat of having to close them, we want these buildings in the best shape they can be if we have to figure out what we're going to do with them, because nobody wants to buy a crappy old building. One of the things I've seen around town, we've seen around here is some of the buildings that sit idle for a number of years, and they're just going to continue to deteriorate because nobody can afford to fix them up to make them suitable. And so if nothing else, this money could be used to make the buildings more saleable. But we also have a 5-year plan that's going to eat up most of this money. So thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Just spoke about fluctuations in population at the school road, and I got to tell you something. We need to face certain economic realities. The children are not coming back. The numbers are going down and been going down for a long time. You know, I've been alive since 1941 and done nothing but nosedive, okay? Nationwide, we are going down. Worldwide populations are going down almost everywhere. The chances of us needing to spend more money or more aside to keep these old buildings going is very low, to say the least. It's disingenuous to say anything else. You know, why not just refund the people back the money? And then when they need to collect more for a particular task, then they come get them. That's what we should do. Right, that's it.
Thank you. Anything else? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Wendy Levy. I'd like to call the question.
So we have a motion to call the question. It takes 2/3 majority to call the question. So all of those in favor of calling this question would say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. We have called the question. We're moving on to Article 3 to vote on it. Shall the voters of the Rockingham Town School District apply the sum of $710,000 from the fiscal year 2025 fund balance to create a reserve fund to be used for capital improvements at the Rockingham schools and authorize the board to expend said funds. All those in favor of the motion would say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. We do have a request for a standing vote. So all those in favor would please stand, hold your voter card up. $20. $45, okay. Amy. Please sit. All those opposed to the motion, please stand and raise your card. The results of your vote on Article 3, 93 people voted yes, 9 people voted no. The motion carries. Article 4, which is not on the warning, it was skipped on purpose by the board. Article 5, shall the voters of the Rockingham Town School District vote to pay its district officers compensation in the following amounts. Board chair, $800, board member, $700. Do I have a motion?
I motion. I move that the voters of Rockingham Town School District vote to pay its district officers compensation in the following amounts. Board chair, $800, board members, $700 each.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Second that. I need a name.
Who had the second, please?
No, they're keeping it. Right in.
Walt Kiesig. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
Will drive the Rockingham? Absolutely not.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Yes. Year. Annual stipend. Anything else? If not, all those in favor of the Article 5, shall the voters of the Rockingham School District vote to pay its district officers compensation in the following amount: board chair $800, board members $700 each. All those in favor would say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. In the eyes of the chair, the ayes appear to have it, and the ayes do have it. And we'll move on to Article 6. Article 6, shall the voters of the Rockingham Town School District approve the school board to expend $11,483,243, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year. The Rockingham School District estimates that this proposed budget, if approved, will result in a per pupil education spending of $12,429.78, which is $403.66 less than the per pupil education spending of the current year. Now, this article should have noted on the warning that this is by Australian ballot, but that was left out. And due to that oversight, a second warning has been issued that reads, the Rockingham Town School District validation vote warning of article for March 9th, 2026. The legal voters of Rockingham Town School District are hereby notified and warned to meet at the Bellows Falls Middle School, 15 School Street, Bellows Falls, Vermont, on March 9th, 2026 at 6 p.m. to vote on Article 1. And Article 1 reads, shall the action taken at the meeting of the Rockingham Town School District held on March 3rd, 2026, in spite of the error on the warning and any act or actions of the district officers or agents pursuant thereto, be readopted, ratified, and confirmed. So what happened is, this is an Australian ballot voting article that was left off the warning. Because of that, they've gone to the Secretary of State. Secretary of State helped draft the language of the second warning, which was brought to and posted correctly. And the overall, what will end up happening is we will vote Tuesday, and then on the following Monday at 6 p.m. at the middle school, we'll have another meeting and confirm whatever the action of the voters are. Okay? Everybody have that? So at this point, I would kind of go to Caitlin, I guess, is speaking to this.
I move that the voters of the Rockingham Town School District approve the school board to expend $11,483,243, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year. The Rockingham Town School District estimates that this proposed budget, if approved, will result in per pupil education spending of $12,429.78, which is $403.66 lower than per pupil education spending of the current year.
Is there a second?
Second. Okay.
So the motion is made and seconded. This is by Australian ballot, so this is educational or informational only. Caitlin.
Okay, thank you, Paul, and thank you for explaining the meeting on the 9th. So the role of the board is to ensure that our schools have the resources that they need to provide students with an excellent education and that those resources are managed responsibly. So I'd like to take this opportunity to speak a little bit to why we think this budget does both of those things. In terms of numbers, and to put those numbers in context, this proposed FY27 budget is a 2.1% increase from last year's budget, and our per pupil spending of $12,430 is 3.1% lower than last year's. At the time, last year's per pupil spending put us at 86 out of 119 districts in the state in terms of per pupil spending. Rockingham's projected education tax rate with this budget is a decrease of 2.9% from last year's tax rate, which is the first time in my time on the board, which has not been as long as some others, but the first time in that short time that we've seen a decrease in the tax rate. And it's also far lower than the 12% increase that the governor's office projected statewide. To that point, the legislature is currently considering the governor's proposal to transfer money from the general fund to the education fund, which would lower our tax rate still further. The reason we were able to keep these numbers so low is largely due to a change in how Rockingham's share of the WNESU budget is calculated. That is the amount that is assessed or charged to member districts for our share of services like transportation, food services, and special education that are managed at the SU level. It also reflects the use of that $500,000 from the restricted tax relief fund that had been earmarked to offset expenses in FY27. At the same time, this budget represents an investment in staff and resources that's going to support our schools in giving students access to an excellent education. Each of Rockingham's schools sets goals around math and literacy proficiency and student engagement and belonging that support student learning. And the principals use those goals to drive decision-making and to help us as a board understand what they need to help students succeed. So this budget includes new paraeducators in each kindergarten classroom that are going to help our youngest students adapt to a new learning environment and get off to a strong start. It includes bringing a part-time math interventionist position at Saxtons River Elementary up to a full-time position to support students in reaching math proficiency. As Jake spoke to earlier, it is an area that we are looking at for all of our schools and SU-wide. A paraeducator specializing in social emotional learning at Bellows Falls Middle School to provide students with social and emotional support at what we know is a transitional time and to foster an environment of learning for all students. And a paraeducator at Central Elementary School that was added to support social emotional learning as the previous SEL teacher moved into an academic interventionist position. All of these positions are grounded in a thorough review of the data around what students need and what's been successful so far in meeting goals. On behalf of the board, I want to extend our sincere appreciation and gratitude to the school leaders and staff of Central Elementary School, led in her first year by Principal Kate Kane, Saxtons River Elementary School, Principal Laura Hazard, and Bellows Falls Middle School, led by Principal Henry Bailey, and to the central office staff and parents who give all they have to make sure that our schools are places of learning and belonging for kids. I also want to extend my sincere appreciation and gratitude to my fellow board members who I learned so much from and whose dedication I am continually impressed by. And then finally, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this report and to consider its contents. We are really grateful for the support of our community.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Guy Payne from Saxons River. I know my understanding is there's been a lot of sharing. There's been a lot of sharing of resources within WNESU, whether it's special ed or so forth, because of some of the rural development, the rural educational group. Can you give me an idea what that savings has come to in terms of how are we really benefiting by that cooperative arrangement that we have? Thank you.
Andy?
So we are part of the Vermont Learning Collaborative, which was given the status of a Board of Cooperative Educational Services, which is the first in Vermont. And so there's 8 school supervisor unions and one school district that belongs to that. And that started in January. We get a lot of professional development right now from that, so it's regional professional development. And so we're not bringing in, I don't have a number, so I apologize for that. But instead of bringing in a contracted service directly that we would benefit from, we are only paying a portion of that when we're sending people to that professional development right now. We're also using evaluators from them. And so instead of paying full price for evaluations, we are paying a reduced cost by being a member of that collaborative right now from that. The other piece that you talked about with the rural school, that's the Rural School Community Alliance. That is separate from us. That is an organization outside of the BOSI's, which is that each one of our districts did sign on to, but that is not anything that I'm involved in. So it's each district or some towns have joined into that, and that is a group that is working to influence legislation to maintain current structures or to keep Act 73 from going into the 5 mega districts. So that work is providing voice up in Montpelier.
Anything else? Any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Australia now owes for the budget of the school board, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so let me make sure I'm clear on this. The mistake that was made, the warning error, this would have been on the main vote coming up Tuesday, correct?
That is correct, and it will still be on the main vote coming up Tuesday.
But that doesn't count, right?
And then what will happen is that the following Monday, March 9th, we will have another meeting to confirm the vote that takes place on Tuesday.
Confirmed. So if everybody said no to this budget is out of balance, and we should disapprove it, and they vote no, then they could just override that at the second meeting, right?
No, because you will confirm the action that is taken. So if the vote is no on the budget, then the vote is no. The board would have to come back with a new budget.
So the confirmation vote basically doesn't do anything.
Yes, it does.
What does it do then? Because I'm confused. I'm sorry.
Because if the vote is yes on the budget, then we are confirming the action that took place.
So if it's yes, they confirm it, but if it's no, it's gone.
No, you will confirm no also, but what will end up happening is then the board will come back with a new budget.
Okay.
Anything else? Andy?
I just want to personally apologize to the voters of Rockingham because the error was an error from my office, and we missed putting the Australian ballot piece on the article, and that has created this confusion, and so I do deeply apologize for that.
Anything else? Priscilla?
Thank you. I know doing a budget's a lot of hard work. I just had a question because we do have the surplus, the 710,000, and then you have added another 200,000. So that's like $1 million more than you've actually had to expend this year in the schools. Can you just give me just a general idea of why we're putting in $1 million over what is actually spent this year? Because that's a huge increase to over what's actually expended. And I would have looked at the expenditures, that's what I do in my own budget at home, and tried to stay close to what I'd expended rather than adding so much extra. So I'm just asking what's there. Thank you.
Ed?
Well, to answer your question, I think what a lot of this is, what's been happening is that the audits that are taking place, every year we're required to have an audit done by an outside auditing firm. And these audits over the years have taken a long, long time to be clarified. So in a given year, if everything goes right, you get your audited balances back in, say, October, okay? So then when you're putting together the budget for the next year, you have an audited final balance for your general fund, which you then use to vote, as we have here, as a portion to, say, a capital reserve, or a portion to tax relief, or send some of it back to, in whatever shape or form, you have to vote on that balance. And what I can see, I've only been here for a year now, I'm just saying that what I see is that these audits were getting back so it's just a late date, that the numbers that were being used as the prior year surplus were not right. And that after the final budget came out, it would be after the town meeting, so that number, the budget that, or the number that they said was the surplus, was actually more. So these balances kept getting carried forward. And, excuse me. And I think this year, we've taken great pains to get to the point where we can give you an audited balance. And what you're seeing here in Rockingham is a culmination of that kind of drag where you've got a balance that you vote on, and then when the final audit comes in, the actual amount's more. So that just gets carried forward, carried forward, carried forward. So that's the only explanation I can give you in terms of why it got to this point.
Thank you. Anything else? And again, this will be by Australian ballot on Tuesday at the Masonic Temple. If not, I'm going to move on to Article 7, which is to transact any other business to be brought before the town school district meeting. Is there anything else? Chris?
He's not here, and you don't know, you probably wouldn't recognize it, but Richard Schumann is has been the head of maintenance in Rockingham for many years. I hired him as the superintendent more than a decade ago. He's done a great job. He saw us through the entire renovation of the middle school, and has supervised a big crew all the time doing that, also pulling a shift, cleaning buildings. I don't know how he does that. So he is going to retire at the end of this year, and I just want to recognize his great work, and we owe him many thanks, although he is not here, as I said.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, at this point, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn the town school district meeting. We'll take about a 10-minute break, and we'll go right into the Town of Rockingham meeting. So I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second. Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor would say aye. Aye. We'll take about 10 minutes. I'd like to call the 2026 Town of Rockingham meeting to order. Good afternoon. Again, my name is Paul Bohosky. I will be the moderator for this meeting today. Again, if you could stand if you are able and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. This one. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We can do that about other business.
And at this point, I do see our Representative Leslie Goldman, who's in the room. I don't know if Leslie has anything she'd like to say, talk about prior to going into this town meeting.
Well, thank you, Paul. That was unexpected, so nothing prepared other than to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you for the honor and privilege of representing you at the State House. It's quite an amazing experience to really discuss policy in depth that's statewide and how it impacts people here in Rockingham. People are up there doing really good work. We are working hard on the education fund, and you've heard a lot about that this morning. We do not want taxes to be as impactful as they are or have been. There's discussion about using surpluses to pay down the tax rate. One of the things I'm wrestling with is, do we do it all in 1 year, or do we put it over 3 years to protect the future, because our future is so uncertain? So I'm going to ask a question, just because Paul gave me the microphone. Who thinks Who would prefer, and I know you have had no time to think about this, because neither did I, thinks that it would be wiser to pay it all down in 1 year, or to reserve it over 3 years to protect uncertainty in the future. So if you think it's wiser, just off the cuff and obviously non-binding, raise your hand if you think we should do it in 1 year.
1 year.
Okay, so I hear one year. Over 3 years? Boom, that's what I'm thinking. I feel a lot better. I'm gonna go take this back to Montpelier. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Appreciate it. Again, as moderator, I would ask your indulgence and patience as we work our way through today's meeting. I have no doubt that you will kindly and gently call any errors to my attention. You should note that I will not recognize anyone standing behind the rail or at the head of the aisle, nor will your vote count. Again, it would be a really good time to make sure you shut your phones back off. The meeting will be conducted according to Robert's Rules of Order, except as modified by state statute. You cannot change state law, but you can choose to modify Robert's rules with a 2/3 majority vote. General Roberts had pages of rules for decorum during debate. I hope that it will not be necessary to remind you to conduct yourself in a civil and polite manner. As Mike Hardy, our long-serving town moderator, always said, we arrived as neighbors and friends, and we should leave as such. Please stand if possible, state your name when recognized. You will have to forgive me if I do not call on everyone by name, but I'll do my best. We have microphones at the front of the theater here, so after you're called and recognized, please come down, state your name, and speak into the microphones. Please address all comments and questions to me as the moderator, and I will either answer or redirect them to someone who can respond. Only registered voters may speak unless by leave of the assembly, which requires 2/3 vote if there is an objection. Unless there is an objection, I will assume there is a leave of the assembly for town officials who may not be resident voters to address the assembly for the purpose of explanation during this meeting. Those of you who are eligible to vote were given a voter card. The purpose of those is to allow us to identify you as a voter who has passed through the checklist. On a division, please hold up your card so everyone is comfortable that only voters are voting. On a paper ballot, the clerk will mark your card as you pass through the line so that we can be assured that folks only vote once. Those articles requiring an Australian ballot vote will take place on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. It will be taken up for discussion only. No action other than discussion can be taken on them at this meeting. I will strive to make any ruling that is called upon to make as impartially and correctly as possible. Any ruling by the moderator can be challenged immediately after the ruling. I will explain my ruling, and if you're not satisfied, all it takes is a request to challenge the ruling be put to a vote of the assembly. Debate on the motion to appeal a ruling of the chair is generally in order. It is my job to assist you in accomplishing the business of this meeting. Please raise your hand and ask questions. If you think that something that is happening is wrong, or you don't understand what is happening, or if you want to do something and don't know how, just make sure I realize that, and we'll help you get through that process. You must be recognized by the moderator to address the assembly. I will try to recognize all those who wish to speak in an orderly fashion, getting around to all those who wish to speak but haven't yet had the opportunity before returning to those who have already spoken. A person may only speak twice on an issue and is limited to 5 minutes total. I hope that you will be brief and not feel that we need to use up all your time or replow the ground that you or someone else has already gone over. A motion must be made, seconded, and restated by the moderator before debate on the motion begins. In most instances, only 2 amendments will be allowed on the floor at any one time. That is 1 amendment to the main motion and 1 amendment to the amendment where appropriate. It requires a motion, second and 2/3 vote to cut off debate and call the question. You have to be recognized to make the motion. You just can't shout it out because you're tired of the debate. The motion to close debate is non-debatable. By state statute, once voters have acted on a question and taken up the next item of business, they cannot reconsider that action at the same meeting. Voting will be by voice vote unless the chair is in doubt, in which case there is a division. Also, any voter may call for a division as long as we have not started the next item of business. Any voter may also move for a vote by paper ballot during debate or before we have moved on to the next order of business, in which case the vote will be by ballot if the call for the ballot is sustained by at least 6 other members of the group. Action under other business cannot require expenditure of funds, nor can it be binding upon the Town of Rockingham Board. Any action under other business is advisory only. At this time, I'd like to recognize Rick Cowan to read the dedication of the 24-25 Annual Town Report. Rick.
Thank you, Obie. John Dunbar at my left, Bonnie on my right, and Elijah Zimmer, who couldn't be with us today, voted to dedicate this year's town report to our colleague, Peter Golick. He is departing after 17 years on the Select Board, and a remarkable achievement. And I'd like to read the dedication that's on the inside front cover. The Rockingham Select Board honors our chair, Peter Golick, upon his retirement from the board after 17 years of service. The town has benefited greatly from his capable leadership, deep experience of local government, and strong work ethic. We would cite Peter's guidance of the long, complex, and challenging process of consolidating our fire departments as his most enduring accomplishment, although there are many other accomplishments. We're also grateful for Peter's expertise in budget management, labor relations, and recycling. So thank you, Peter. We wish you much satisfaction in your post-Select Board endeavors.
All right, thank you for that, folks. It's been a pleasure to serve on this board with, well, not a complete pleasure, but over the 17 years, there's been the ups and downs, and mostly they've been up, so I can't really complain. And I've been lucky enough to be reelected over the years. Even if I said I wasn't going to run, I ended up running again anyway. I just didn't run fast enough. So that being said, I was taken a little bit by surprise with the dedication, because the dedication this year was actually going to be to the members of the fire departments that joined in the consolidation. They're all listed in the book there. We didn't want to leave anybody out. As we keep saying, the door is still open. Anybody who wants to join can join. So anyway, so I was a little bit surprised when Rick handed that to me and go there, but that's what it is. Thank you again.
Well, Peter, you might as well keep the mic. At this time, I'd like to ask Peter Golick, chairperson of the Rockingham Select Board, to introduce his fellow board members and other officials from the town of Rockingham.
Okay, to my immediate right here is Bonnie North, who is running for re-election this year. To my left is Rick Cowan and John Dunbar. And Mr. Zimmer, as mentioned by John, is not, is not here, not available tonight. So this afternoon, so we're missing, and we do appreciate his time on the board. He is not running for re-election.
Okay. I'd also like to highlight that today's meeting has a Zoom link, but also highlight that voting is not permitted over Zoom. The warning for today's meeting has an introductory paragraph which reads as follows. The legal voters of the Town of Rockingham and the Town of Rockingham School District are hereby notified and warned to meet at Town Hall Main Theater, Bellows Falls Opera House, 7th Square, in said town on Saturday, February 28th, 2026 at 2 p.m. to act upon all articles for expenditure of public funds. Then adjourn March 3rd, 2026 to the Masonic Temple, 61 Westminster Street in said town at 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. to vote. I'll move right on to Article number 1, to elect town officers and school district officers as required by law. And this is by Australian ballot. So that will take place on Tuesday, the 3rd of March at the Masonic Temple. Article 2, to receive and act upon the reports of the town of officers for the past year. Rick?
I move that the voters of the Town of Rockingham receive and act upon the reports of the town officers for the past year.
Is there a second? Second. Motion been made and seconded to receive and act upon the reports of the town officers for the past year. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of Article 2 would say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it, the ayes do have it, and Article 2 passes. Article 3, shall the voters of the Town of Rockingham authorize the Select Board and Treasurer to borrow money from time to time in anticipation of tax collection or payment of money due to the town from the State of Vermont for highway or other purposes, or payment to the town from the federal funds. Bonnie?
I move that the voters of the Town of Rockingham authorize the Select Board and Treasurer to borrow money from time to time in anticipation of tax collection or payment of money due to the town from the State of Vermont for highway or other purposes, or payment to the town from federal funds.
Is there a second? Seconded by Rick. So motion been made and seconded that the voters of the Town of Rockingham authorize the Select Board and Treasurer to borrow money from time to time in anticipation of tax collection or payment of money due to the town from the State of Vermont for highway or other purposes, or payments to the town from federal funds. Is there any discussion? Yes, Jane.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Moderator. I would like to make an amendment to this Article 3, and Jamie Barrick, Bellows Falls, I'm sorry. I would like to make an amendment to this to set a cap on how much the Select Board is able to spend without voter approval. December 2025, the Select Board took action and moved forward with $75,000 additionally to the train station project, and the board, the people and the voters were allowed input on this right up to the purchase, and now we're just going to throw money in there. So I would like to make a cap and an amendment to this to $25,000, and then they have to go to voter approval if they're just going to arbitrarily move forward and spend money.
So I think what this really is, Jamie, to be honest with you, is if for some reason we're short taxes or whatever, it allows the treasurer to go and borrow money.
So it says money due to the town from the state highway purposes of payment to the town federal funds, but it says we're allowing them to spend money. We should put a cap on this. Newport City had just gone through their water and sewer, and I understand that the Select Board has no control over that with Bellows Falls. They took out 2 bonds, nearly $2 million recently, without voter approval. There needs to be a cap on this so everybody and all the taxpayers can have some insight on what's going on before it happens. So if there's another article here that we're allowing them to spend money, we need to put a cap on it. Thank you.
I will allow that amendment if there is a second for that. So motion been made and seconded that we would add to set a cap of $25,000 to this article.
Yes.
So we will not be able to borrow any more than $25,000.
Without voter approval.
Without voter approval.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Yes, Wendy.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Wendy Levy, Bellows Falls. Is there any town ordinance or anything in the legislature that addresses this, that if the select board wants to expend or borrow over a certain amount, that it has to go to the voters? Is this already covered anywhere in any statute?
I do not know that. Anybody?
I don't believe there is a policy that the town has that limits the amount of money to that effect, and I don't think there's anything in statute that says that. In reference to the bond votes that happened in Newport that Mr. Barrick was mentioning, that's kind of highly unusual because bond votes are required to be by Australian ballot, as we've done in the past here with this roof project up here. We had to go back. First year we had it and we did it, and we were short because the time it took to get people together, get together to do the bids, the price went up. So we had to have another bond vote, and that was all done by the voters. So.
Any other comments, discussion? Gary.
Yeah, Gary Fox, Bellows Falls. This article doesn't authorize the select board to spend money over the budget. It's saying that money that's in the budget that's allocated for things that we'll be collecting taxes for throughout the year. If we need it right now, say a bridge washes out, and or there's some funds that we need that's in the budget for the highway sooner than we want to, then we have the funds collected, that we can borrow the money, but it's not authorizing the select board to spend money above the budget.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I would sort of like to, elaborate on what Gary just said. If you read this carefully, it's not talking about allocating money for anything or anything. That just says, in anticipation of tax collection or payment of money that's already due us. So that means, like, we've been awarded some money from FEMA, and something comes up and we're waiting for that money, which we always do, wait and wait and wait. We could borrow, we need to repair one of our trucks or something like that. We could borrow in anticipation of that money we've been allocated. That's all it really says.
Anything else?
Ben Mashore, Rockingham. Yeah, so if we have a storm like we did in July of 2021 and we lose half our roads, then the select board can borrow the money until we get it back from FEMA. We can't wait around for us to all vote on that.
Yes, sir.
Will Crowther. I believe that putting the brakes on the select board to make sure that they're held accountable and they're not using nefarious techniques to kind of extract money and use it in ill-advised ways. This just slows them down a little bit, and I have no problem with slowing them down. I want to be on that select board, and I think you should be watching every second and every dollar, so slow them down. That's a good thing. I would support this amendment. I think you should too.
Thank you. Anybody? Laurel.
Laurel Green, Rockingham. This is really a question, moderator, to the members of the select board. It looks to me like a cap like this would very much handicap them in being able to address the business that they need to address in a timely manner.
Rick?
I would agree with you, Laura. This would hamstring your select board. Presumably you elected us because you trust us, and things come up that we can never anticipate, and the necessity of holding some kind of an election for every expenditure over $25,000 is, I think, unworkable. If you see how expensive and difficult it is to have one election or two elections a year, imagine that having one every time the select board faced a budget question over $25,000. So I would encourage you to vote against the amendment.
We're going to first bite of the apple, and then I'll come back second bite.
Yeah, Susan Brace, Bartonsville. Yeah, this is a question of cash flow rather than the budget.
Yeah.
We vote to approve the budget. That limits the expenses. Cash flow is a matter of paying for what needs to be done, as people have said, in anticipation of the receipt of tax receipts or grants. So it's not granting any additional expenditure permission to the select board.
Correct. Thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead, Wendy, then I'll come back to you, Jamie, for a second bite.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Wendy Levy, Bellows Falls. Mr. Moderator, I would question whether Mr. Crowther's amendment is out of order, because this is something that to me is not immediate. It's a diversion from what the original motion is, what the original warning is, and I would expect something like placing a cap on spending in that way should be warned so that people who may want to comment on it could be here and deliberate it. So I'm wondering if it's out of order.
So my ruling would be that this would be out of order, that this is a housekeeping bill, is the way I guess I would phrase it, that it allows the board to borrow money in anticipation of funds that will be coming to replace that money. So I'm going to rule this amendment out of order, and certainly you can challenge my ruling. And if there is no challenge, I'm going to move back.
I only seconded it.
I understand that, sir.
Just correcting the record for that, number one.
And so,
And I don't understand your objection, your out of order objection. It seems complete.
Is this a conversation or is this?
so I've ruled it out of order as the moderator, and I believe the wording that it's from time to time in anticipation, and those were the key words for me on this ruling.
I challenge the ruling.
Okay? So there's been a challenge to my ruling. The way this works is that I want to just make sure I have this correct.
Two-thirds, I think.
No, that's what you maybe the voice vote says they agree with the motion.
All right, so at this point, I'm going to put the debate on the motion to appeal the ruling of the chair. So what this means right now is I'm going to ask the people in the audience, if you vote yes, then you agree with the ruling that I've just made, that the amendment is out of order. If you vote no on this, then the motion would stay in effect.
Mr. Moderator, before we move forward, do I get a second bite of the apple?
Sure can.
So let's
Come down to the mic, please.
let's forget about natural disaster. We're talking about a budgeted project in the town, and it's overrun right now by $75K.
I'd like to have the person speaking use the microphone, please.
Yeah, Jamie Barrett, Bellows Falls. So forget about natural disaster and we need funds right away, but any additional funding for projects exceeding $25,000 that aren't emergent should be discussed with the public. We set a price that started at 22.5 for a feasibility study back in February of 22. That's grown and grown and grown, and now the board convinced us last year that this was a good investment, and all of a sudden, we're spending another $75K with no input from the town and the voters. That's all I'm saying. Emergent stuff, natural disaster, I get it. But anything over 25K for a planned project that starts to go south on us, the voters of Rockingham should have a say in it. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. Leslie. Down to the mic, please.
They used to run around and give mics, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, but couldn't get anybody.
My point of order is this germane to the motion on the table? Is this argument germane to the motion? And I'm not sure it is, and that's my point of order that I'm asking you to consider.
And I allowed the amendment. After further thought, I've said that the amendment is not acceptable on this article. We've had a challenge to my ruling as the moderator. So at this point, we'll see what the voters in the audience think. So if you vote yes on this motion, what it would be that the amendment is not germane, is not acceptable, and that's what my ruling was. If you vote no, then the amendment will stay, and we'll vote on it. So all those in favor of my ruling
Standing vote, please.
to state that the amendment is out of order would stand and hold their card.
It is out of order.
You can sit, all those that want to vote no, would you please stand and raise your card?
Where's your card, Green?
Yes, I
Your card, Green.
Different pile.
So the vote is 95 yes, supporting the ruling of the moderator, and 6 no. So we're back to the original article, Article 3, which has been made and seconded. Shall the voters of the town of Rockingham authorize the select board and treasurer to borrow money from time to time in anticipation of tax collection or payment of money due to the town from the state of Vermont for highways or purpose or other purposes or payments to the town from federal funds? Is there any other discussion on Article 3? Seeing none, all those in favor would say aye. Aye. Opposed, no?
No.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and Article 3 is passed. I'll move on to Article 4. Shall the voters of the town of Rockingham authorize the select board to seek out and/or accept funds available from non-property tax revenue sources and to spend those funds in appropriate ways as required by public input?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the voters of the town of Rockingham
authorize the Select Board to seek out and/or accept funds available from non-property tax revenue sources and to spend those funds in appropriate ways after required public input.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded that the voters of the Town of Rockingham authorize the Select Board to seek out and/or accept funds available from non-property tax revenue sources and to spend those funds in appropriate ways as required after required public input. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and Article 4 is passed. We will move on to Article 5. Article 5, shall the voters of the Town of Rockingham raise and appropriate the sum of $7,382,160 to pay the indebtedness of the town, repair and maintain highways, and pay all other general and regular expenses of the town beginning July 1, 2026 through June 30th of 2027 with $5,961,282 to be raised by taxes. Peter.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the voters of the Town of Rockingham raise and appropriate the sum of $7,382,160 to pay the indebtedness of the town, repair and maintain highways, and pay all other general and regular expenses of the town beginning July 1, 2026 through June 30th, 2027, with $5,961,282 to be raised by taxes, and I will give a general overview if I get a second.
Go ahead. Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded. Go ahead, Peter.
Okay. If you look at page 19 in your book, Town Report, you will see that the recycling revenue is pretty well on budget. It's just short because we're not charging for food scraps. The recycling expenses, unfortunately, are just the opposite. They're over budget because of we have to pay employees down there. We can't get anybody to volunteer. Cost of that in payment is $122,000. Page 20. Look at theater revenue is down due to the fact that there's going to be, it's about $50,000 because they're not expecting to book as many live shows as they have in the past. 22, page 22, $40,000. A new payroll human resources program. The old program we had was not working very well. The employees were having problems with it. And so we've got a new one coming out, and that'll be, I think it's in vogue right now. Page 22, we now have a full-time planning zoning administrator. In the past, we had a three-town, Windsor, Weathersfield, and Rockingham went in on paying for two people. One was doing zoning, and the other was doing the planning. They have zoning, the part-time zoning person in there was here like 2 days, and he's since left. The planner is done, I think, in a couple more days. I think her contract runs out in March. Now, page 25, Senior Solutions, you will see the articles listed on there in your budget, but it is not added into the total. It's just a place marker because we are going to be voting for that one, and they have asked for a increase, so that'll be an article. 27, page 27, Public Safety. The total you see there is $632,528, which includes $134,000 of ambulance funding. Ambulance funding has never been part of the expense of the fire departments. Actual cost of the new fire department, if you take that off, is going to be $498,525. The amount we proposed during the transition process was $542,006, so we saved about $44,000 just going to this. Page 26, Meeting House article, again, is shown there as a placeholder, but it is not into the total into the budget until it's voted on the article. Page 29, library is the same. It's a it's an article to be voted on. It's there as a placeholder. It's not included in the budget until we vote on it. Page 30 is cemetery budget is voted on as an article. In the past, it was just included in the budget, but because there was some issue with the perpetual care funds, we decided to put it in the budget because we did transfer money last year out of that. And also this year, 50,000 was out of it. And we are asking for some taxpayer funding on that in the amount of about $67,000. Part of that is increase in the mowing. I know we got a lot of complaints last year on the mowing of the cemeteries. We have been having trouble over the last 3 or 4 years finding a reliable contractor. We have one now that we think is going to do it. And unfortunately, the cost is $80,000. We can't get it done any cheaper than that. Highway revenue. Yeah, if you look on page 31, we are going to be short $200,000 in the grant, structures grant. That's for replacing culverts, et cetera. The state's just not funding those. So we have to make it up somewhere if we want to put any culverts in. There are 2 culverts on Saxon River, 121 just before you get into Saxon River that need to be replaced, and that's going to be the incoming board's headache because they're trying to do paving of that road. As anybody that runs over that road knows it's in pretty tough shape. Page 35, transfer to equipment fund. We are purchasing a loader, a 10-wheeler, a 3/4 ton truck, and a sidewalk plow. A 2006 loader that's working in the pit will be replaced by a 2015 loader that we're using currently. That 2006 loader will be sold or traded depending on where we can get the best deal. The other vehicles that are being replaced will be traded in, and that money will be recouped by the town. So we are asking for $573,000. And the only reason that is because of the safety issue. That tractor, the sidewalk plow that we're buying, it replaces one that's has tipped over 3 times. And unfortunately, nobody's been hurt. At one point, it did flip over into traffic. So we need to get something done with that. Page 35, project expenses. There's $24,000 there, and that is a match for a $96,000 grant to repair the flat iron bump out. So hopefully that will give you some idea where we're going with the budget this year. It is up about 8%, unfortunately, but that's due to union negotiation costs, insurance costs involved with that. I could go on, but you know, if you own property, you know where that goes. You pay for expenses, they go up every year. Electricity, you name it, it's probably gone up. So we'll take any questions if you have any.
Any questions? Any questions? Yes, sir. Mr. Reese.
Paul Reese, is this the appropriate time if I want to make a motion on Article number 5?
An amendment?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. I ask all the people here in the town of Rockingham, we all pay our tax bill to the town of Rockingham. The people of Saxons River, please be open-minded to what I'm going to say, and the people of Rockingham. This is my motion, and then I'd like a minute or 2 to explain why. Mr. Moderator, I would like to make a motion on Article number 5.
I think you're going to make an amendment.
All right, I'd like to make an amendment to Article number 5 to increase the overall budget by $500,000. It would bring the grand total to $7,882,160 to be raised by taxes. And this is what I want to throw out there. I, as a village taxpayer, actually pay two tax bills. I have another, the village bill comes in at $1,200 on a $254,000 bill. I'm asking to be considered that the town will help us pay for public safety. I truly understand you don't want us in Rockingham, you don't want us in Saxons River, you have a sheriff thing, which I agree and I'm happy with that. But I do believe the Village of Bellows Falls Police Department protects 10 major assets that are owned by the town, and the village payers are paying all of those bills. Let me just name the assets. The middle school, if anything ever happened at the middle school, the Bellows Falls Police Department responds. The town rec department, the town library, the town hall, the town movie theater, the town train station, the town waypoint center, the town cemetery, the town fire department. All our money are invested in a bank that is in the town, which the village police department would respond if there's any type of an issue. So please consider raising another $500,000 and paying your share, which is a small amount for my $1.4 million police department. I'm only asking for $500,000. Thank you.
All right, so Mr. Reese, you said that you would change the raise and appropriate the sum of $7,882,160 to pay the indebtedness of the town.
Right, and I would like...
And then, is it also then my understanding that you want to be raised by taxes to go from $5,961,282 to $6,461,282?
Yes, what I would like to do is that money to be sent to the Village of Bellows Falls, $500,000 to help pay for the police department. Thank you.
Is there a second?
I'll second it for more personal discussion.
Okay, so motion been made and seconded that we would amend Article 5 to read, to raise and appropriate the sum of $7,882,160 to pay the indebtedness of the town, repair and maintain highways, and pay all other general and regular expenses of the town from July 1 to 26 to June 30th of 27, with $6,461,282 to be raised by taxes. That is what the amendment has been. And Paul, is that correct? That's what your intent is, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the one thing I do have to say is that the select board, what happens here is we're voting on the bottom line of the budget. The select board has the decision right to say if they have an extra $500,000, where that money goes. It is not up to us here. You cannot direct the select board to take that $500,000 of extra money if this passes and give it to the village. You can suggest it, but you cannot direct them. Okay, I just want to make sure everybody is aware of that. So is there any discussion on this budget or this amendment? Yes.
So this actually brings up a question that I mentioned to a couple of people before the meeting started. I'm confused as to how this affects the vote on March 3rd. And since the warning has already gone out and the ballot printed for the March 3rd vote, does anything that we do here today have any bearing on the vote on March 3rd?
So March 3rd, the town budget is not voted on by Australian ballot. So that is not even on the ballot on March 3rd. The ballot or the vote for town budget takes place at this town meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Gary?
Yeah, Gary Fox, Bellows Falls. Mr. Reese raises some really good points. But as you said, the town budget is, the general fund is directed by the select board and not by us. And I'm wondering if we couldn't ask the select board and the trustees to discuss or to look at for next year if the police department could have some funding from Rockingham, and there's some things we could do, like paying the sheriffs to go out to Rockingham so many hours a week. I mean, that might open up the village police to do some other work as well. And,
Thank you. Any other discussion? Peter?
Gary, we already do that now with the sheriff's department. Bartonsville raised a big concern about issues out in Bartonsville. We already paid the sheriff's department. The smart thing, I know this is going to get me in trouble, but I'm done as of tonight. So you're talking almost like a merger. I know in the past we've tried to do this, have the police department go out and do Saxon River and also the town areas, but they all voted they did not want Bellows Falls police outside the town of the village of Bellows Falls. That's why it's probably not going to come to any fruition at this point.
Yeah, I would just say, Paul, I think the way that you could go about this would be to get the proper number of signatures and ask to have it put on the ballot as an article next year. But it's not something we can easily do tonight.
Is there any other discussion? Just anybody else first bite of the apple? If not, Mr. Reese.
When I look at my library portion of my tax bill, I believe it's $137.47 it cost me for my library portion. So I have no problem with that. And the police department should get help. I gave up drinking beer at $1.95 times 365 days, saved me $711.75. I've been sober. So I'm only asking you to give up a bottle of wine a month or a beer a day, like they used to tell me. So it may cost you $137 a month more in your taxes, or $150, and Bellows Falls would get a reduction.
Any other questions, comments?
Just as an aside, the amount of money or the tax rate that would go up probably about 9 to 10 cents right now. With this recent appraisal, we used to raise a penny with $50,000. So now with the appraisals going up, it's probably jumped to a penny raises $60,000. So divide that into 500, and you're going to get about 8 to 9 cent tax on addition to what you're going to be paying if this budget passes right now and all the articles pass. Just for information.
Any other comments? All right, so I'm going to move on to the amendment. And the amendment made by Mr. Reese is to raise and appropriate the sum of $7,882,160. And to be raised by taxes, it would go from $5,961,282 to $6,461,282. So all those in favor
Of the amendment, right?
of the amendment would say aye. All those opposed to the amendment would say aye. It appears, or the chair is ruling that the amendment has failed. We are now back to the original Article 5. Shall the voters of the town of Rockingham raise and appropriate the sum of $7,382,160 to pay its indebtedness of the town, repair and maintain highways, and pay all other general and regular expenses of the town beginning July 1, 2026 through June 30th of 2027, with $5,961,282 to be raised by taxes. That is the motion on the floor. It's been seconded.
Oh, for God's sake.
Well, crowd of Rockingham, I hereby amend this motion to subtract $500,000 from this budget. It doesn't even come close to the smell test. I've gone through this thing, and it's a joke. And I know a lot of you here are going to be in favor of it, but I know there's people listening out there who will vote no on this or would vote no on this. And when it comes to the ballot box on Tuesday, I'll see you. So I say take off $500,000 from the town of Rockingham general fund.
Is there a second to that amendment? Motion has been made and seconded that we would reduce.
Who was that? David Barrett?
Yeah, reduce the $7,382,160 to $6,882,160, and the money raised by taxes from $5,961,282 to $5,461,282. Is there any discussion? Yes. Deborah.
Yes, thank you. Deborah Wright, Bells Falls. Just so a point of order that this is not an article on Australian ballot. We're voting on the floor for this.
That is correct.
Right, so there's not going to be any opportunity. And all I want to say about that is this is why I believe we should have this particular type of article on Australian ballot, because we're, less than 200 people here, maybe less than 150 people who are voting for a multi-million-dollar budget, just like with this, the school, at least they have one on Australian ballot. And we need to do that because more people who care about their budget and who care about these numbers need to have a voice, and they have no voice here. And that's it.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Wendy Levy, Bellows Falls. Two things. The first one will be brief. I am here today. I care about this budget. I did my homework. Two, I am going to vote against the amendment. I've reviewed this budget. I've looked at it pretty carefully. In my professional work, I work with municipal budgets. Doesn't mean I know more than anybody else, but I've had some experience and I kind of know what to look for. I commend this select board in making this budget. To me, this looks fiscally responsible. The things that I'm noticing where there are increases are a lot of times things that the select board has no control over, like the cost of stuff. But one thing I want to point out to all of my neighbors is on page 24, it's under employee benefits and it's the health insurance line. If you look at the FY25 budget, health insurance costs the town $75,000. The proposed FY27 amount is almost double that. That's $125,000. Very little of that actually goes to take care of each other and to pay doctors and other healthcare practitioners. This is paying into a for-profit, unsustainable system, which is the health insurance industry. Right now, there's a bill in the House, H433, I want to bring your attention to. Right now it's stalled in the House Health Committee, and it would be great to get it unstalled, and it would create an incremental implementation of a state universal health care plan. That would make it so much easier for our school boards and our select boards to make their budget every year, because we wouldn't be looking at such a huge increase for healthcare, which there's no regulation about that. And that can go up as much as the health insurance companies want it to. So if this is a number that's alarming to you, please reach out to your legislators, especially the ones who are in the House, not the state senators, and say, do what you can to get H433 out of committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Kathleen?
I just wanted to make a comment on Deb's comment that if you can't just do the budget on the ballot has to be everything voted on Australian ballot or nothing voted on Australian ballot except for the offices, which is what we have now. So you can't pick and choose what you want to be on the ballot.
Thank you. Any other comments, discussions on the amendment? So the amendment is to reduce this budget by $500,000. It would take the amount raised and appropriated from $7,382,160 to $6,882,160, and to be raised by taxes from $5,961,282 to $5,461,282. So if you're voting for this amendment, it means that you're voting for the $500,000 cut.
Mr. Moderator, would you just reiterate what this means, that they can't tell us where to cut the budget?
I sure will.
Yeah, it's just, we could leave everything it was, and there's several other places that could be cut, but social services is $100,000, we could probably chop that out. $153,000 there. There's plenty of places to cut it other than that. We want your roads plowed, fine. We'll cut them out. We'll drop a couple of trucks off, and you won't get your roads plowed for 3 days. That's fine. We can do that.
Oh, I like that. So you're going to suggest I cut social services, and you want to suggest we cut plowing. That is exactly what I would not cut. What I would cut is the fire budget, because you replaced the volunteers who did an exceptional job for free and replaced them with a bunch of jackasses who are running away with big bags of money.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. We won't use language like that, please.
Okay.
Please.
Empty shirts. Is that better?
No.
Well, I'm sorry. Y'all ran the volunteers out on a rail for no reason other than you said it would be efficient. But that was a lie. You lied to the people. And you should have put it on Australian ballot, because if you would have, they would have never approved it.
Okay, are you set?
I'm
sir?
done. Go
Okay,
ahead and
good
call
enough.
the
Thank you. So again, if you vote yes on this amendment, it means that you are voting to cut $500,000 out of the budget. So all those in favor of the amendment would say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed would say no. No. It's quite obviously that the amendment has been defeated, and we will move back to the original article, Article 5. Are we ready for the question? Article 5, which has been made and seconded, reads, the voters of the town of Rockingham raise and appropriate the sum of $7,382,160 to pay the indebtedness of the town, repair and maintain highways, and pay all other general and regular expenses of the town beginning July 1, 2026 through June 30th of 2027, with $5,961,282 to be raised by taxes. All those in favor of that article would say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The article passes. Article 5 has passed in the eyes of the chair. We will move on to Article 8. Articles 6 and 7 have been left off the warning, and the Select Board did that. So Article 8, shall the voters of the town of Rockingham raise and appropriate this and spend the sum of $4,500 to be allocated for the support of Springfield Area Parent-Child Center to provide services to the residents of Rockingham. Rick.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the voters of the town of Rockingham raise and appropriate and spend the sum of $4,500 to be allocated for the support of the Springfield Area Parent-Child Center to provide services to residents of Rockingham.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made, seconded. Yes, ma'am. Oh, you seconded. Is there any discussion? Yes.
Hello. I'm Dana Bear. I am not a voter of Rockingham. I'm a resident of Springfield. I'm here, I'm the executive director of the Springfield Area Parent-Child Center. And so I'm here to speak on behalf of our organization. And while Springfield is in our name, we have proudly served Rockingham families for over 30 years. Rockingham is one of the 18 towns in northern Windham and southern Windsor counties that we serve and support. So I'm just going to read this because my voice is so shaky. So our focus is on children and their families from pregnancy through age 6, the years that shape lifelong health, learning, and stability. Through our Children's Integrated Services team, we provide home visiting, caregiver education, preventative nursing, and mental health services, as well as early intervention for children birth through 3 with suspected or diagnosed developmental delays or medical conditions. Our staff includes developmental educators, mental health clinicians, a speech-language pathologist, an occupational therapist, and a registered nurse, all working together to provide coordinated wraparound support. In addition, we offer childcare financial assistance and referrals, weekly playgroups, parent education, a diaper and formula bank, clinical support for families experiencing the loss of a child, and the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, which mails a free book each month to enrolled children from birth to age 5. I invite you to explore our website and to learn about these and our other programs. All services are free to families, supported by state contracts, foundation grants, individual donors, and town appropriations. In Rockingham, over the past year, we served 397 individuals across 120 unique families. 70% of those families access 3 or more of our services, demonstrating both the level of need and the trust families place in us. I'm here to respectfully request an annual appropriation of $4,500. Your $4,500 appropriation equals just $37.50 per family per year for services for families served in your community. This modest investment promotes healthy child and family development, helps prevent child abuse and neglect, strengthens school readiness, and reduces the need for the far more costly emergency and crisis services later. The children we are supporting today will one day sit in your classrooms, work in your businesses, and serve in your community. What happens in the first 6 years of life shapes everything that follows. By supporting this appropriation, you're investing not only in families today, but in the future strength of Rockingham itself. I respectfully ask for your yes vote, because strong families build strong communities. Thank you.
Thank you. So motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I have an amendment. I'd like to offer an amendment that I support this funding of this particular topic if the select board was to send a letter back to the state requesting all of our money back for the train station property. That's my amendment.
Okay. Okay. All right, so we have an amendment. Is there a second to that amendment? Hearing no second, the amendment dies on the floor. Yes, Wendy.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Wendy M. Levy, Bellows Falls. There's a lot of talk in town about attracting and supporting young families to Rockingham. And I think one way of doing that is Springfield Area Parent Child Center provides. Also, many of us know that federal funding and state funding is in flux. Therefore, I would like to make an amendment to this motion to increase the amount from $4,500 to $5,500. Thank you.
Is there a second to that amendment? Second. Is there any discussion?
Who seconded that?
Jamie?
They've never had any.
Jamie Barrick, Bellows Falls. I have no issue with funding these social service programs, but it was my understanding under state statute that we can only add or subtract every 5 years to add to this. That's what we were told last year. We can add or decrease funding requested, like Mr. Reese did last year for the Bellows Falls Senior Center by $25,000, but we were only going to revisit these every 5 years.
It's my understanding that this article is on the warning because of a petition.
Correct.
And so if the group petitions, then it can be added to the warning.
Okay, and so just for clarification, arbitrarily, the board can't go ahead with these social service programs and just say we're going to fund it forever, correct? We have to revisit this every 5 years?
Every 5 years, that is correct.
Right, so last year, our select board went ahead and nothing about the bike program. I know they do a lot of good, but in an open meeting, they went ahead and granted them $5,000 indefinitely. So we need to look at how we do this. I don't disagree that you folks do a lot. And, you know, for Mr. Golick to go directly to cutting social services, I think is the wrong approach, and fear mongering that your, roads aren't going to be, plowed for 3 days. It's a good, I'm sure it's a great organization, but what is it? What is the law? What is the regulation on every 5 years? And obviously the board, I don't feel, can just arbitrarily give out money forever. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So we do have an amendment. It has been seconded. Rick?
So, Jamie, there is no state law that specifies when you vote on social services. For example, the town of Chester, our neighbor to the north, they vote every year. There is an argument to be made for doing it more frequently than 5 years because things change quickly. Organizations expand, contract, change their service area. So we may revisit this next in this coming term of the select board, but for now, I don't think we can change the way we've gone about it.
So again, there is an amendment on the floor. It's been, yes, sir.
Yeah, Steve Crofter from Bellows Falls. I'm very much in favor of supporting this organization, but I'm also aware of the tension in our town between those folks who have the means to pay the taxes that are asked and those that are struggling to pay taxes. And I also assume, and this could be wrong, but I assume that when a particular figure is asked for, that the social service agency in question has put some thought into what's fair to ask from our town in relation to the number of people served. So because of that, I'm going to assume that the figure they asked for is reasonable, especially in light of the number of people in town that are struggling to pay their taxes. So I would vote against the amendment, in spite of how much I appreciate Wendy's concern and caring. So,
Peter.
Jamie, the 5-year edict on voting on those social services is a town policy. As Rick mentioned, a lot of the other towns around, you look at Springfield's warning, and they got about 50 articles they vote on because they vote everything separate. But several years ago, the town voted that to do the social services every 5 years. And Debbie can attest to the fact that we've looked at this so many times. We've had a couple of investigative committees that have interviewed and gone through all these things, made recommendations to reduce or whatever, change the amount of monies, and they all fail. So I don't know if that helps you, I mean, where you want to go, but that's the case.
Jamie?
Just my second bite of the apple. So I appreciate you addressing my concerns and everything, but Chairman Golick just stated that it was a town policy. But this year is the first year that I don't see all these organizations, you know, under an article that show that. So we just arbitrarily decided to drop that from regular practice, even though it's a town policy.
I believe that 3 years ago, Peter?
Alyssa, can I?
Yeah, sure can.
Okay, so a new organization can come on anytime that they want to by petitioning, which they did. They got enough signatures to come on. The 5 years is, so now everybody that's on that list is now allowed to get this social service money every year for 5 years. And on the 5th year, the town goes through,
A review.
does their whole thing that they already did, and then every single one goes back on the ballot, or not on the ballot, but back on the warning for the voters to again say, yes, we want to continue to give them money.
Okay, understood, but last year, we went through it line by line, and that was year 2. So we had just voted on all these organizations the year before, but it was in our town report and on as an article last year, so. But thank you very much.
Okay.
for clarification.
Yes.
Point of order.
Point of order, yes, sir.
I believe that you're working on an amendment.
That is correct.
This discussion is not relevant to the amendment. You should deal with the amendment first and then continue this discussion.
Thank you.
I cede.
So there is an amendment on the floor. It's been seconded to increase the allotment in support of the Springfield Area Parent-Child Center from $4,500 to $5,500. Voting for the amendment means that we would increase it by $1,000. All those in favor of the amendment would say aye. All those opposed to the amendment would say no.
No.
In the view of the chair, the noes have it, and the amendment has been defeated. So we are back to the original article, which states the voters of the town of Rockingham raise and appropriate and spend the sum of $4,500 to be allocated for the support of the Springfield Area Parent-Child Center to provide services to the residents of Rockingham. Is there any further discussion? Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor would say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no?
No.
And the article passes. We'll move on to Article 9. Shall the voters of the town of Rockingham raise and appropriate the sum of $436,780 in the operation expenses for the support of the Rockingham Free Public Library, with $387,250 to be raised by taxes. Bonnie.
I move that the voters of the town of Rockingham raise and appropriate the sum of $436,780 in operating expenses for the support of the Rockingham Free Public Library, with only $387,250 to be raised by taxes.
Is there a second? It's been seconded by Peter. Is there any discussion? Or let me repeat the motion. Motion is made and seconded that the voters of the town of Rockingham raise and appropriate the sum of $436,780 in operating expenses for the support of the Rockingham Free Public Library, with $387,250 to be raised by taxes. Now, is there any discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all those in favor of Article 9 would say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. And Article 9 is passed. We'll move on to Article 10. Shall the voters of the Town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $22,000 to fund the Meeting House Capital Reserve Fund with $22,000 to be raised by taxes? Bonnie.
I move that the voters of the Town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $22,000 to fund the Meeting House Capital Reserve Fund with $22,000 to be raised by taxes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Rick has seconded. Is there any discussion? Well, again, let me, Article 10 reads, the voters of the Town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $22,000 to fund the Meeting House Capital Reserve Fund with $22,000 to be raised by taxes. Is there any discussion? Mr. Reese.
Just a little question. As we continue to put a lot more money into it, which is great if we're up to $1 million or whatever, I'm just kind of curious, what public safety department is going to protect to make sure it doesn't get vandalized? Are we going to increase the sheriff's patrolling, or is the state police if something happens for the $1 million investment we got up there?
Do we have an answer to that?
Gary, you want to take that one? Like, you're in Walter's office, and as far as I know, there's some grant money that is coming down the road, and if our administration in Washington okays the money, then there will be some security issues put in there, and also some other issues, but Gary has more detail than I can give you.
Yeah, so Gary Fox speaking as the development director for the town. So the Rockingham Meeting House is on it's a National Historic Landmark, and the Certified Local Government Historic Preservation Coordinator has secured, over $1 million in federal grants for the rehabilitation of it. And one of the things that's been problematic in the building is the security system. And so that will be assessed and replaced with a system that's appropriate for the building that we're looking to protect.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Are we ready for the question? If so, and the motion, which has been made and seconded, reads, the voters of the Town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $22,000 to fund the Meeting House Capital Reserve Fund with $22,000 to be raised by taxes. All those in favor of the motion would say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. And the article passes. We'll move on to Article 11. Shall the voters of the Town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate and spend the sum of $130,564 to maintain town cemeteries with $67,314 to be raised by taxes. John.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the voters of the Town of Rockingham vote to raise, appropriate, and spend the sum of $130,564 to maintain town cemeteries with $67,314 to be raised by taxes.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Anything? So the article reads that the voters of the Town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $130,564 to maintain town cemeteries with $67,314 to be raised by taxes. All those in favor of the motion would say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. And the motion carries. We'll move on to Article 12. Shall the voters of the Town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate and spend the sum of $4,500 for Senior Solutions, the nonprofit area agency on aging serving southeastern Vermont to serve older Vermonters and young disabled Vermonters with nutrition and wellness programs, application assistance for state, federal benefit programs, Medicare enrollment guidance, long-term care, Medicaid program, care coordination, volunteer visitors program, and more. Is there, Peter, I believe?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the voters of the town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate and spend the sum of $4,500 for Senior Solutions, the nonprofit area agency on aging serving southeastern Vermont, to serve older Vermonters and younger disabled Vermonters with nutrition and wellness programs, application assistance for state and federal benefit programs, Medicare enrollment guidance, long-term care Medicaid program, care coordination, volunteer visitors programs, and more. I believe this one was another.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Yes. Well, we'll second.
Rick has seconded that. Sorry, Peter, go ahead.
That's right. Jumped the gun on you there. This was another petition article that was incorrect. They were originally going to ask for $3,000 to make their current appropriation of $1,500 to the $4,500. But when they turned the petition in, it was 2 days before the deadline, and they did not have a chance to correct that petition and get the appropriate number of signatures on that petition, so we had to put it in as you see it here. So they would now be getting $6,000 instead of $4,500, so if this article passes.
Is there any discussion? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Boutwell. I'm not a resident of Rockingham. I am the Executive Director of Senior Solutions, the area agency on aging in southeastern Vermont. I want to thank the voters for your previous support of our agency. Briefly, I'll tell you that in the next 4 years, 1 in 3 Vermonters will be age 65 and older. And we provide a whole array of services for folks in that age range. An example of that is, for instance, as many of you may have experienced, Medicare Advantage plans this year kicked thousands of people off their plans, and now there's only one Medicare Advantage plan offered in the state. And most providers are not in the network of that plan. So we provide counseling on folks who are searching for new Medicare plans, and thousands of people have come to us through our call center to do that. We also support case management for folks who want to stay at home and qualify for Medicaid long-term care. Our case managers are in people's homes, supporting them, making sure they get the services they need. We work closely in partnership with the Bellows Falls Senior Center, which I hear you increased funding for last year. We applaud them. We support them with additional funding for their meals through the Federal Older Americans Act and state general funds. A home-delivered meal is paid for by these funds at $6.50 a meal, which you can imagine doesn't come close to meeting the cost of those meals. So I applaud the town for supporting that center, and we're happy to work very closely with them. Happy to answer any other questions about Senior Solutions. We serve all of southeastern Vermont, 46 different towns. About 75% of our funding comes from state and federal sources. So we do depend, well, and as you can imagine, that funding has been mostly flat and is in jeopardy. So we do depend on town funding to support the services we provide. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? So the article reads, shall the voters of the town of Rockingham.
Mr. Moderator?
Oh, sorry, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Wendy M. Levy, Bellows Falls. I appreciate the information about Senior Solutions, but I also would like to remind our neighbors that Senior Solutions also helps folks who have disabilities, who collect things like SSI and SSDI, of which I am one. And so, yeah, it's going to help a lot of our neighbors. And so I encourage everyone to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Yes.
Mary Fredette, Town of Bellows Falls, and I would like to propose an amendment.
Okay.
And this has to do with the town funding for all of the nonprofits. We gave and have appropriated $26,000 over a 5-year period to the Visiting Nurse Association located in Lebanon. And while I appreciate all of the things they do in the communities, they no longer serve our community. So my request.
So Mary, what I'm going to ask
Yeah.
you to do is wait till Article 14, which is under other business.
Oh,
Does
okay.
Does that work? All right, so are you going to propose that we look at these?
I'm going to propose that we increase the donation
Okay.
to Senior Solutions.
Okay.
By reducing the allocation for the BNA.
I'm going to rule that that cannot take place. That if we've committed the 26,000 to the Visiting Nurse Association.
Well, it came up last year as well.
So, Rick.
Well, sorry, while we discussed the appropriateness of the amendment, I have done some research on the question that Mary raises, and I'd like to share it when appropriate.
Go ahead. Why don't we now then?
Okay, the visiting nurses, if you go to their website, their area of service is described as the Upper Valley and Central Vermont. If you talk to the number of people who are served, the visiting nurses served 96 people. We paid them $26,000. Bayada, to whom we pay $0, has served 200 people. The chief executive of the Visiting Nurse Association in 2024 was paid $320,000 a year, which makes me worry about excessive executive compensation. So I don't know how, I would suggest that our money is not being well invested there, and thus share Mary's point that we could keep the money right here in town and serve more people through Senior Solutions. Is that accurate, Mary?
Okay, so Mary, would you make your amendment then, please? No, she did not.
I didn't get that far. So I am proposing that, I'm proposing that the allocation to the Visiting Nurse Association be reduced to $5,000, and the remainder of the funds, $11,000, be reallocated to Senior Solutions, who serves many, many people on many levels in our communities.
Is there a second to that?
21,000, sorry. Yes.
I'll second it.
Okay. So motion has been made, or amendment has been made and seconded to raise the appropriation for Senior Solutions from $4,500
To 25,000.
to $25,500.
Yes,
And that we would reduce the visiting nurses appropriation from $26,000 to $5,000.
yes. Thank you.
Is there any discussion on that? Yes.
Susan Brace, Martinsville. As much as I agree that this must be maybe an issue, it seems that we have already approved the allocation of $26,024 in Article 5 when we approved the budget.
Amy.
Amy Howlett, Saxton's River. I think we're in the area where the select board has those funds budgeted, and it's up to the select board to decide how they want to distribute them. Just as if we were to cut $500,000 from the budget, it'd be up to the select board to decide where to take those funds from in order to move forward. So I appreciate the sentiment behind the motion, the amendment, but I think what we have on the floor is a discussion about adding money to pay for senior solutions. And other decisions could be made by the select board based on the funds that they have already approved in the budget. Just as if you are short in one area, you can shift money from another area in order to fund things.
Thank you. Anything else? So the amendment on the floor is to raise, yes. Sure can.
To Mary Fredette's amendment, last year, the VNA was directed by the state to cease providing case management services to long-term care Medicaid clients. And all those clients are now referred to Senior Solutions in the Area Agency on Aging. So our caseloads have increased significantly because all those referrals for long-term care, choices for care, now come to Senior Solutions in this area and no longer go to the VNA. Thank you.
So the amendment on the floor is to raise the senior solution appropriation from $4,500 to $25,500 and reduce the visiting nurses appropriation from $26,000 to $5,000. Everyone have that motion in mind or amendment in mind? Looks like we still have a couple of comments.
I'm Wayne Blanchard. I'm just confused because earlier we just said we couldn't direct the select board to take that kind of an action. And so I'm not clear and we're just voting on increasing this, but it doesn't obligate the select board to
That is correct. It does not obligate the select board to do that.
I just wanted to be clear on what
Yes.
I'm voting on.
Correct.
Mr. Moderator, do I recall in last year's town meeting that we voted to increase a certain social service amount and that was passed?
Yeah. That is correct.
Seniors, yeah.
Senior center.
So it looks like it can be done.
It can be done.
Yeah, we can increase it, but we can't vote to take it.
Amy.
One to the other one.
Second bite.
Good thing we have a lot of experience on the select board. I'm looking for you to tell me. So if we pass this at the suggested amount, does that add to our tax? Does it put more on the tax? Because I think the point of Mary's motion was just a readjustment in the budget that, is in the main pages of the budget, not so much on the article.
That's correct.
So if we pass it at this new $26,000 level, we're adding $26,000 to our taxes. That's
is
my
correct.
understanding.
That would be my
Unless, that's the point of why we're here arguing about what to spend.
That would be my opinion also, Amy.
Unless Alyssa Harlow has, or Peter or somebody can speak to that?
It is, as you said, Amy, we're just shuffling money from one entity and increasing it in one and reducing the other. So it's not going to be a increase in your taxes. You're reducing visiting nurse to 5,000, and you're putting the balance of that 26,000 over to senior solutions.
But again,
So
Peter,
it's a wash it that way, but I'm not sure that, as this woman previously said, it's been voted when we adopted the budget, that those five that are in there in that for a 5-year period have to stay. So I don't think we can technically switch the money around. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it has to stay, I think.
Mr. Lambert.
David Lambert, several things. First of all, you started with ground rules saying that once we vote on a motion, it cannot be considered within the same meeting. It sounds to me like if you consider this amendment to be in order, which is a question, I think, for you, we cannot include a direction to reduce the VNA by that amount. That's already been approved by a previous motion. I would suggest you rule the amendment out of order, and if Mary wants to make an amendment to add a certain amount to the senior solutions budget or article, then she could do that. But I think moving it from one area to another is out of order.
And I somewhat disagree with that, because Article 5, we voted the bottom line of the budget at $7,382,160. And again, that's what takes place, is we vote for the bottom line of the budget. I think what I'm really, the way I look at it is Mary is suggesting that that's what the select board do, that they reduce the visiting nurses by 21,000 and adds it to senior solutions. So again, we cannot direct the select board where, line item by line item, where to put money and take money away.
Correct.
Gary.
Yeah, so Gary Fox, Bellows Falls. I'm wondering if the amendment should be, if there shouldn't be an amendment, that we're voting on the $4,500 for senior solutions, and the visiting nurses that's already in the budget, we're recommending that the select board move that money, but we're not appropriating new money, so it shouldn't really be called out as that amount of money going in the amendment, because that could be taken as additional funds on the budget.
It would be additional funds. That is correct. So we've passed the bottom line of the budget.
Yeah.
And again, we, the people, cannot direct the select board where the funds would come from. They certainly have a suggestion that it should come from, but this amendment is going to add $21,000 of new money.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
That's my interpretation of it. Sure, absolutely.
Thank you, Kathleen. So I guess as a taxpayer, my question is, why are we flushing $26,000 down the toilet when it's not doing anybody any good in our communities? So where is it that we ask, I understand, so now do we go to a select board meeting and ask you to change that? Or what?
That would be exactly what I would have given as advice, would be that after their regrouping of the select board, that you would go to the select board and request and walk in and say, here are the facts that we have. as we've already heard about senior solutions. And what it really is, it's
just a movement of money.
it's a movement of money. The way this amendment reads, this is not a movement of money. This is an additional $21,000.
Yeah, I don't want to add to the.
Okay.
Add to the budget. I want.
So if you withdraw your motion or your amendment, we'll vote on the $4,500. And then what I would do is ask the select board to be placed on their agenda at either their first meeting or second meeting and go in and make your argument about swapping money.
Thank you.
Which they would have the power to do.
I withdraw the amendment.
Okay.
And I'll see you at a meeting.
So the amendment has been withdrawn.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Wendy M. Levy, Bellows Falls. Could that advisory motion be made during other business? Would that be proper? To advise the select board to move that money?
I certainly would say yes, you can make that advisory, but again, under other business, it's not like they're going to be spending additional or new funds. It's really just moving the money around.
Got it.
Certainly under other business, and I think when Mary first stood up, I said, this may want to wait to other business, and that was kind of my impression.
Thank you.
Either that way, or certainly, she could go to a select board meeting and make that same request, either way.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Pat? Yeah, it's on.
It does work. I don't know why it's not working for people. Oh, okay. I think that what we should do is suggest in other business that they investigate the VNA and see if we want to give them anything. Because if they're not covering our area, then we probably wouldn't want to be handing them a check. And I think our finance director thinks the same thing.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Any other discussion on the article? So Article 12 reads, shall the voters of the town of Rockingham vote to raise and appropriate and spend the sum of $4,500 for Senior Solutions, the nonprofit area agency on aging serving southeastern Vermont to serve older Vermonters, younger disabled Vermonters with nutrition and wellness programs, application assistance for state and federal benefit programs, Medicare enrollment guidance, long-term Medicaid program, care coordination, Vermont volunteer visitor program, and more. That is the motion. All those in favor of the motion would say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. And the article passes. Article 13. Shall the voters of the town of Rockingham vote to exempt the following properties from all real estate property tax for the properties located at the listed addresses for 5-year period commencing with the grand list of April 1, 2026. And those properties are number 02088000116, Bartonville Grange 481, 130 Upper Bartonsville Road. Number 100020201, Saxon River Village Land and Trout Ponds, 201 Pleasant Valley Road. Number 110460125, Bellows Falls Village Corporation Watershed Land, 125 Darby Hill Road. Number 115000706, Bellows Falls Village Corporation Water Tower, 706 Rockingham Road. 140020075, Saxon River Village Recreation Area, 75 Pleasant Valley Road. 151210700, Saxon River Village Horton Forest, 698 Saxon River Road, and 2331600003, Bellows Falls Senior Center, 3 Hyde Street. Rick.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the voters of the town of Rockingham vote to exempt the following properties from all real estate property taxes for the properties located at the listed addresses for a 5-year period commencing with the grand list of April 1st, 2026. I will spare you the parcel numbers. Bartonsville Grange, 130 Upper Martinsville Road. Saxon River Village Land and Trout Ponds, 28201 Pleasant Valley Road. Bellows Falls Village Corporation Watershed Land, 125 Darby Hill Road. The Saxons River Village Recreation Area, 75 Pleasant Valley Road. Saxon River Village Horan Forest at 698 Saxon River Road. And finally, Bellows Falls Senior Center, 3 Hyde Street.
And Rick, I believe that you missed the Bellows Falls Village Corp. Water Tower, 706 Rockingham Road.
Okay, thank you. I will add that, the water tower, yes.
Okay. Is there a second? Second. Motion been made and seconded. And Article 13 reads, the voters of the town of Rockingham vote to exempt the following properties from all real estate property taxes for the properties located as listed addresses for the 5-year period commencing with the grand list of April 1, 2026. Bartonsville Grange number 481, which is 130 Upper Bartonsville Road. Saxon River Village Land and Trout Ponds, 201 Pleasant Valley Road. Bellows Falls Village Corporation Watershed Land, 125 Darby Hill Road. Bellows Falls Village Corp. Water Tower, 706 Rockingham Road. Saxons River Village Recreation Area, 75 Pleasant Valley Road. Saxons River Village Horan Forest, 698 Saxons River Road. And the Bellows Falls Senior Center, 3 Hyde Street. Motion been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing no discussion. All those in favor would say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. And the motion carries. Article 14, to transact any other business deemed proper when not involving the expenditure of town funds or any other business acted upon in the preceding articles.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Laurel Green, Bellows Falls. I really appreciate the long considered education and consideration of each article and amendment today. And during the middle of it, I thought, I'm sure thankful we're not doing this at 9 or 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So thank you to everyone coming out today. We as a town really need to get more than the handful of people that are here to our town meetings, and I would love to have the select board put attention on that in this next year. So just a comment.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I've got one.
Yes. Just a minute, Rick, and I'll come right back to you.
Thank you. Susan Brace, still live in Bartonsville, even all these hours later. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known as ICE, was created in 2003 as part of a federal reorganization. This is for a non-binding resolution. As part of a federal reorganization in response to September 11, 2001, and is a relatively new agency whose primary function is the enforcement of civil immigration law. The United States already has long-established border security agencies, including the U.S. Border Patrol, whose mission is to secure the nation's borders and ports of entry, making a separate interior immigration policing agency unnecessary. In recent months, ICE has conducted masked and armed enforcement operations within cities and towns far from the border, resulting in 2 deaths of U.S. citizens, many injuries, detention of children, separation of families, and widespread fear and instability. These actions reflect a broader pattern in which ICE's presence in local communities has caused harm without demonstrable public benefit. Rockingham is not isolated from these concerns about the use of force, our constitutional protections, and public safety. As Rockingham residents, we worry that members of our community are living in unnecessary and profound fear and anxiety. We therefore put forth the following resolution. Resolved, Through this non-binding advisory resolution, the voters of Rockingham express our opposition to the continuation of immigration and customs enforcement in its current form and call upon Vermont's members of Congress to create a law dismantling ICE, reassigning any legitimate border-related responsibilities to existing border security agencies, and conducting full congressional oversight hearings into ICE's conduct. We also asked the Vermont legislature to create law permitting civil actions in Vermont courts to hold federal agents accountable for violation of the legal or constitutional rights of Vermont residents. Do I need a second?
I'll second that.
Do we need a second to that?
So I believe we will allow this to go to a vote. And again, it's a non-binding. So ma'am, I may have you just reread that when we get to that point, okay?
Just the resolution.
So it's a resolution, it's been seconded. Everyone have that resolution in mind? If so, all those in favor of the resolution would say aye.
Aye.
Oh, sorry. Please, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Steve Crofter, living here in Bellows Falls. In 2014, I began to volunteer first at a Catholic Charities project at the U.S. border at Mexican border, and then a couple of years later founded the Community Asylum Seekers Project, which was initially here in Rockingham, headquartered here. Since then, it is now headquartered in Brattleboro. But over these, so it's at roughly a dozen years, I have literally, between volunteer work and paid work, have worked with literally hundreds of asylum seekers and refugees. And there are people that I'm personally familiar with living here in Rockingham, between asylum seekers and refugees. I think there are 20 people now that I know personally. What I just want to speak briefly to is a couple things. One is that these are people who came to the United States with permission to enter the United States to seek asylum or to be here as refugees. They've undergone some degree of vetting, and they all have legitimate fears of living in their countries of origin. The stories I've heard are horrific. Their lives are in danger if they were to be returned to their countries of origin. That's why they are here. They came to the United States because I think most people in the world have an idea that the United States, represents values that, if you picture the Statue of Liberty, saying, come here because we believe in liberty and justice for everyone. And if that's something you're seeking, that we want to welcome you here to our country. The 20 people that I know who live here in Rockingham currently are terrified of ICE. These are people who have the right to live here, the legal right to be here. They're working their way through. Refugees have already been approved and have been welcomed by the U.S. government, supposedly, but they're still terrified. The asylum seekers are, each family or each individual is at some point in a legal court process to prove the legitimacy of their asylum claims. But, they have, they're on the docket, they're going to get their turn in court. If their asylum is not approved by an immigration court in the United States, then they'll be deported. If it is approved, they'll be welcomed here. Meanwhile, these people that have a legitimate right to be here are scared to death of ICE, with reason. They watch TV the same as many of us do. And what they see on the TV, of course, makes them terrified to be here, makes them scared to go to work. It makes them scared to send their children to school. It makes them scared to go to the doctor. It makes them scared to talk to our police department. And I guess I'll just end with a very brief story. The asylum seekers need to go every 6 months to an ICE check-in up at the ICE field office in St. Albans. A family that I know here who has a young daughter had to say to their daughter the first time, the ICE was clear that just the adults needed to come in. The parents had to say to their daughter, who they left with a trusted friend, you know, we hope to see you this afternoon, but if we never see you again, you'll live here with this neighbor who you know and cares about you, and she'll take care of you. And if there's some way we can ever be reunited, we'll try for that. We'll hope for that. But that's the kind of terror that people are facing. Can you imagine saying that to your child? You know, we hope to see you again, but if we never do, I hope you'll have a good life with your neighbor. This is what ICE is doing in our country. ICE is not serving much the legitimate purpose that I can see. So I definitely support this. I would like to see us as a community support our friends and neighbors who live here. And if you have any questions afterwards, I'm glad to talk to anybody about this. So thank you.
Thank you. So we have a non-binding resolution on the floor. Does everybody have that motion or resolution in mind? Yes, sir. Sure can.
Don Taylor, Rockingham. I am fully in support of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Service. I'm ashamed of people like Mr. Crofter. I hope he's financially supporting these asylum seekers. I know I don't want my tax dollars supporting these people in any form. Illegal aliens are here, illegally. I'm not talking about Mr. Crofter's asylum seekers.
If you would, sir, please direct that to me as the moderator.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Nope, that's,
Again, I want to reiterate that I will not support in any way this resolution. I'm ashamed that somebody from Rockingham would actually bring this up, because you cannot pick and choose what laws of the United States that you can abide by. We all abide by the laws if we're going to be law-abiding. That's all I have to say.
thank you. Anything else? If not, we have a non-binding resolution on the floor.
Paul?
Yes. Gary?
Sorry, I just want to say quickly, the way I heard the resolution was to abolish the enforcement actions in its current form, which is being operated illegally.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor of the non-binding resolution would say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no? No. Motion, or the resolution is, non-binding resolution is passed. Is there any other business to come? Laurel?
Thank you. I'm full of appreciations. I love our town report, very useful. Interesting that last year's report included the number of registered voters and how many people showed up at town meeting. Thank you for that, just putting that in there. I appreciate it. What I want to talk about is there's an emergency management report in here by Sean McGinnis. I love it. It includes that we have a hazard mitigation plan. We're about halfway through that plan. And as the emergency manager, he's planning to look at it and revise it for the 2027 update. The last time it needed to be reviewed, it lapsed. And we had a major environmental event. And fortunately, civilians took on getting it revised and getting it in effect within the time zone so it could be retroactive, so it could get FEMA funds. So I'm really glad attention in the town is going towards that climate change is still happening, that we're still having inundations and weird weather and all the other troubles. We've heard a lot about road washouts and culverts and all of that. That's all part of it in the hazard mitigation plan. So thank you for having this in the town report. The other thing is he mentions that all of us are welcome to join VT Alert, and that's how you can know when bad stuff is coming down the pike. So thank you.
Thank you. Anything else under other business? Rick?
So I'd like to quickly acknowledge two members of the town staff. First would be Glenn Schreider, our remarkable highway superintendent, who has worked amazingly hard. And all of you know what kind of a winter we've had. And Glenn Schreider has kept at it day after day. So I want to acknowledge his contribution to this town. And secondly, I'd like to introduce you to Alex Torpy, who is our interim manager, the bearded young man in the front row. Alex, as an interim, is doing much more than keeping the manager's seat warm. He is bringing incredible value to our town. I won't bore you with the details now, but it's just, we're so lucky to have this young man.
Anything else under other business? Yes.
It's almost over. You won't wrap that with it.
Mr. Moderator, I'm Kathleen Martin from Rockingham. I would like to make a non-binding resolution for the voters of the town of Rockingham to condemn the acts of war being visited upon the people of Iran in our name and the unilateral abandonment of diplomatic efforts to resolve our differences, if we do have differences, with those people. Thank you.
There's been a non-binding resolution and a second. Is there any other discussion? Everyone have that in mind? If so, all those in favor of the non-binding resolution would say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. And the non-binding resolution passes. Is there any other business to come under other business? Anything else? Yes. Motion has been made to adjourn.
I'll second that.
And it's been seconded. All those in favor would say aye. Aye. We are now adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.